Chapter 956. The bewitching, tall, slender woman stood in the red brick house, thinking about where that person went. While that person was standing in the stream next to the red brick house, taking off his shoes and soaking his feet in the water, enjoying the cool water. Seeing Gongzi's calm expression, Shanna thought about everything that happened and hesitated to voice out her worries. At this moment, a gust of mountain wind blew over, mixed with the fresh smell of the soil after the rain. Looking up, he saw the pine forest on the opposite hillside creeping in the wind like waves. The fog was born, rolling up the sky, full of withered yellow leaves, flying halfway up the mountain into the distant sky, and then gradually disappearing. Gu Qingshan looked up at this, seemingly recalling a distant memory, and didn't say anything. As the measure tribulation approached, he could already feel it. At this moment, everything that happened since he started cultivating couldn't help but appear in front of his eyes, causing him to fall into a tangle of emotions. For a long time, he was immersed in his thoughts and comprehension, thinking about how to find the origin. When he finally understood, the measure tribulation would come. Night had just arrived. The stream was silent. The moon was as bright as frost. The young man was as beautiful as a painting. Shanu silently stared at his back and slowly understood. While fighting against the abyssal monsters, Gongzi was still taking the time to silently accumulate his strength for the sake of advancing. It's best not to disturb him at this point. Shanu sighed, sat down next to Gu Qingshan, and dipped her slender white feet into the stream. Everything in the past was cut off at this moment. She would protect him like this, from this moment until eternity. No matter what happens after this, no matter what difficulties they face, she will always be by his side. The night deepened. Gu Qingshan woke up from his complicated memories. It was now that he noticed that Shanu was still by his side. "Are you hungry?" "I'm not hungry, but Gongzi's cooking is really good. I want to eat." "Then let's eat first. Then we'll go kill her. I'll listen to Gongzi." The red brick house. The tall, slender woman lightly licked the blood on her finger. Only after she felt that her finger was completely clean did she coldly speak. Next, a man with a single horn on his head came forward, trembling and smiling. "Madam, I've lived in this world for a few dozen years. Everyone here can prove that silence reigned." The stench of blood gradually filled the corridor. The man looked around and couldn't help but laugh bitterly. The tall, slender woman looked at him and asked a bit confusedly, "Staying in this world would make you lose all of your abilities, and you would only be able to live in this cage-like house, or you would have to stay by the water's edge. This is basically a prison. Why are you willing to stay here for so long?" The man replied, "Because of the apocalypse, my. The apocalypse has swept through every world, from the space-time mystery nest to the eternal abyss, from the 900 million world layers to the doomsday cemetery. No matter how powerful an entity is, they can't avoid it. And this Gemini star is a forbidden land of the four saint pillars, so will definitely be one of the last worlds to be destroyed." The tall, slender woman went silent for a while, then said, "You only need to receive one of my attacks." The man was overjoyed. "Thank you for your forgiveness, madam." He took a stance on the spot, adjusted his breathing, and crossed his hands in a defensive posture. Although all of his abilities were sealed, when he assumed this posture, his entire temperament was completely different. If he was a coward who was afraid of death before, then right now, he had suddenly turned into a peerless combatant who could crush the stars with his bare fists. The tall, slender woman glanced at him and praised. "Martial arts? Huh? Your fundamentals are very solid. I can faintly sense a vast heaven-breaker intent. Why would someone like you be willing to live in this place?" The man said nothing. The tall, slender woman slowly stood up and spoke with a cold tone. "Answer me, or die." The man stubbornly remained silent. The abyssal fate weaver scowled, went silent for a while, then smiled. She quickly stepped forward, clenched her tiny fist, and threw it at the man. The man roared in anger and received it with both arms. Boom! He was sent flying like a cannonball, crashing into the wall at the end of the corridor as he coughed up blood. The abyssal fate weaver pulled her fist back and spoke with a bored tone. Such a dejected, martial spirit. "So you're a piece of trash who was struck down by the past. Even if you're still alive, you're already dead. You're not the one I'm looking for." She stood on her tiptoes and carefully walked towards the door to avoid staining her clothes with the blood and corpses on the way. In the entire red brick house, apart from the man just now, everyone else had been killed. The man knelt on the ground with a look of pain in his eyes, then suddenly couldn't help but shout, "The apocalypse will destroy everything you hold dear. You say that you look down on me, but that's only because you haven't encountered anything that could truly bring you pain." The tall, slender woman was about to pull the door handle when she heard that and stopped. There seemed to be a flash of emotion in her eyes. The woman disappeared. A split second later, she reappeared in front of the door. "I can ignore a piece of trash, but you have to understand, no matter what, a man shouting at a woman is never right." She raised the man's head in her hand and spoke seriously. The door was opened. The tall, slender woman walked out with the head in her hand. Outside the door was a forest, a small stream, as well as an endless mountain range. The night was hazy. The moon in the long ravine disappeared without a sound. The tall, slender woman walked to the stream, threw the head on the bank, and walked deeper into the water, allowing the water to wash over her body. Clusters of crimson light began to spread from her body, forming layers of red clouds within the light of the water, then faded away and disappeared without a trace. The tall, slender woman stood up from the stream and slowly walked back to the bank. "That damn Gu Shan, where did he go? Could it be that he has already left this world, or is he hiding somewhere along the stream?" The tall, slender woman thought in irritation. At this point, a gust of cold, water-like night wind blew towards her. The tall, slender woman's eyebrows loosened as she appeared a bit surprised. The wind carried a certain scent. This was a warm scent that had been buried deep within her memories since the beginning of countless years. The tall, slender woman took a few deep breaths. "How interesting. There's actually someone bored enough to do such a thing at this time," she muttered as she followed the direction of the wind. Following the stream for a few miles, the scene in front of her appeared in front of her. An old man was cleaning up the pots and pans. Gu Shan was standing next to him, holding a large bowl of noodles in her hand. The fragrance that came from the wind just now came from his bowl. While eating, Gu Shan spoke. "Thank you for your hospitality. The noodles you cooked were so delicious that I couldn't help but finish the soup as well," the old man happily replied. "It's good that you like it." Gu Shan gave the empty bowl to the old man and asked, "The world I want to go to, please tell me how to get there." "That's no problem." "No problem at all," the old man laughed heartily. Looking at the old man, the tall, slender woman suddenly recalled something. In this world, there was a legendary figure, the Old Guide. His origins were extremely mysterious, seemingly not of any known race. Furthermore, he was a master of cooking. Legend has it that as long as one ate the noodles he cooked, they would be able to please him and obtain the method to travel to a certain world from him. And right now, Gu Shan was doing exactly that. At this point, the two of them seemed to have noticed something and looked towards her. "Gu Shan, now that I've found you, do you really think you can run away?" Saying so, the tall, slender woman swung her arms and slowly walked forward. Looking at her, Gu Shan's expression slowly turned serious. "Who would have thought that as an abyssal monster, you would have such high attainments in martial arts?" The tall, slender woman scoffed. "There are a lot of things you wouldn't expect." As she spoke, she was still as calm as a virgin. But as soon as she said so, she had already charged forward like a bolt of lightning. Gu Shan drew her sword to receive her attack. Without any probing, the two of them both attacked with their full power. Boom! As fist and sword clashed, the sound of impact resounded like thunder. The tall, slender woman fluttered back like a willow catkin and landed on top of the stream. Gu Shan retreated a few dozen feet, dispersing the force of the other party's punch. The other party's strength was too great. Fortunately, Gu Shan had benefited from the life sacrificial dance a few times, so her body was much stronger than before. Otherwise, she might not have been able to take that punch head-on. "Good fist technique." Gu Shan's eyes glowed. The tall, slender woman looked at him and scoffed. "Your sword chi is a bit weaker than I thought. Of course, you don't need to care about life and death, but I don't want to die." Gu Shan rubbed her numb hand. The tall, slender woman suddenly laughed. "So after all that you've done, You're still afraid of death in the end, of course. Only those who are afraid of death would know to fear death and know how to deal with it, Gu Qing slowly explained. Chapter 9:57. The punches were like raging waves that wanted to devour the sword. But the sword would always be able to appear at the most crucial point, just as the waves were about to collapse, blocking the punches. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Both sides were fighting for so long. Each time the sword and fist clashed, the air would resound with a resounding noise. "You've been tricked," the woman loudly laughed. Somehow, she managed to slip through the countless sword phantoms and threw a punch straight at Gu Qingshan's chest. If this punch landed, it would be enough to blow a normal person's entire chest out. But Gu Qingshan's sword had already been thrust forward, so she couldn't parry in time. Dong. A few moments passed. Gu Qingshan sent the other party flying again. The tall, slender woman flipped in the air and lightly landed on the ground. I never knew an abyssal monster's fist technique to be so profound, Gu Qingshan sighed. Not only that, although the other party's body had taken human form, the toughness of her body structure wasn't something a normal person's sword could cut through. She was able to block a sword with her bare hands. Gu Qingshan had tried many times to probe her, even stabbing the other party with her sword several times, but still couldn't find a weakness. What a perfect body for combat. I can't find a weakness at all. A dual-wielding style isn't something that just anyone can pull off. Most of them are just trying to please the crowd. If you're also trying to act mysterious, then your sword will become my sword, and you will die by your own sword. The tall, slender woman looked at Gu Qingshan and spoke with a calm tone. Her gaze fell onto Gu Qingshan's hand. Just now, Gu Qingshan had pulled out another sword from the stream to block her attack. Gu Qingshan's body slightly lowered, her swords hanging by her side as she replied, "I don't joke around with my own life." The stream water mixed with countless rocks and dirt as it exploded under his feet. Gu Qingshan's figure flashed, leapt across the stream, and appeared in front of the tall, slender woman. The two swords turned into two continuous afterimages that enveloped the woman's body. The woman's expression didn't change. She stretched out her hands into claws, trying to grab the sword with her bare hands. However, two afterimages agilely wrapped around her wrists, twisting and pushing. The woman lost her balance and took a few steps back. The two swords coiled around her like poisonous snakes, but they were repelled by her crossed fists. Gu Qingshan also took a step back. The tall, slender woman stared at him and slowly said, "Those who use dual swords have too many thoughts." She defended with one fist, while the other turned into a vertical palm in front of her fist, forming a defensive stance in the stream. Gu Qingshan looked at her posture, and a strange feeling arose in her heart. In a battle of life and death, those who dared to turn their fists into palms and use both fists and palms at the same time were definitely not careless. Her martial arts cultivation was not fake. But why did she know the martial arts of the human race? Gu Qingshan lowered her swords and said, "Actually, I can use many swords, but I can't use spiritual power here." "Nonsense," the tall, slender woman chuckled. "If my power wasn't sealed, do you think I would need to spend so much effort to kill you?" At this point, a gaze landed on them, drawing Gu Qingshan's attention. The old guide's gaze appeared a bit uneasy. She was coldly watching from the sidelines, feeling a bit anxious. As they had agreed before, she would transform into the old guide, while Gongzi gave up on the technique and turned into a normal person. Then the two of them came to trick. Gongzi said this was a trick, the Abyssal Fate Weaver. They were going to use the occultism technique to make the Abyssal Fate Weaver reveal some information, then use that chance to attack. But now, Gongzi still hasn't used the secret signal. Gu Qingshan understood Shanu's thoughts and subtly gestured for her to stay calm. The Abyssal Fate Weaver is too strange. Gu Qingshan faintly noticed some sort of secret, so her original plan had to be put aside for now. Right now, a small fist pierced through the air, howling as it flew forward. Gu Qingshan parried it with both swords. All of a sudden, he saw a palm. Oh no! The fist was a feint. The palm was the killing blow. It was already too late to retract her swords. Gu Shan abruptly twisted her body to avoid the palm and used her shoulder to ram into the other party's body. Bam! The tall, slender woman was sent flying. She lightly landed in the water and stood still, a bit contemplative on her face. You're clearly a sword cultivator, but you're able to use close-range martial arts so easily. This isn't right. What isn't right? The path of swordsmanship is the path that rejects other cultivation techniques the most, the tall, slender woman carefully recalled and understood. I remember now, back in the Grand Divine Palace, you had a certain thought. You were glad that you could use various types of power, because if you couldn't do that, you wouldn't be able to use your card identity, and you wouldn't be able to make the Demon King Order give up all of its abilities for you to fully evolve. In other words, in truth, your soul is in a liberated state. The tall, slender woman looked at Gu Shan again with a complicated expression. Gu Shan's heart sank. This monster, she's too terrifying. Able to see through people's minds, able to take on any identity, and her own strength is terrifyingly strong. Other than that, she can revive after death. He was a bit hesitant. A monster who knows martial arts and fist techniques. She must have a lot of secrets on her. Various thoughts flashed through Gu Shan's mind one by one. Countless possibilities were popping up and disappearing in his mind, helping him to make deductions. But at this point, another worry silently manifested in his mind. If she manages to find Lola, then all of my plans would be for naught. At that time, I wouldn't be able to obtain the 3 coins, and Lola would also be in danger. As for the combatants who were heavily wounded by the Soul Shrieker and sealed inside the ice crystals, as well as Lady Black Sea, who I'm clearly connected to, I wouldn't be able to save them. But she must have a shocking secret on her body. Gu Shan's thoughts quickly turned. Compared to secrets, I should be thinking about how to deal with her. Without a powerful card like Earth and Dual Body, if I want to kill her again and delay her revival, I can only do so on this Gemini star. Once I leave the Gemini star, her power will be completely unsealed, and I won't be her match at all. Even the bygone era humans couldn't do anything to her. If I let her return to the 900 million world layers from here, how many days do Sue, Cher, and Anna have left to live? Gu Shan's gaze changed. The tall, slender woman immediately sensed the change in his aura. She asked with interest, Just now, you were still testing me, but now your aura has completely stopped. You're forcing out all of your power. Are you finally going to risk your life to fight me? Gu Shan replied, You have a lot of secrets, but I've suddenly realized that my life is more important than your secrets. He swung his sword a few times and held it tightly. The tall, slender woman stood sideways, her fist in front of her palm behind her, her knees slightly bent as she muttered, Your reasoning is correct, but your life will be in my hands in the stream. Their gazes met, both of them exuding killing intent. While they were about to move, a voice abruptly cut in. Young man, do you want to know where the war point is or not? Gu Shan and the woman both turned to the stream. The old guide looked at Gu Shan and smiled. I can tell you how to get to the world you want to go to. Gu Shan's thoughts moved. Thank you. I really do want to know where that place is, but someone's bothering me right now, he said. Kill. How could I forget such a great helper like Shano? In this world, her power isn't restricted at all. Chapter 958. To prevent the abyssal fate weaver from probing him. As soon as Gu Shan left the Earth world, he sealed off his thoughts. This was to prevent the other party from probing his mind and finding out about the star chart. Ever since returning from the age of old, now that she was on the Gemini star, standing next to the stream, Gu Shan understood a certain thing. The abyssal fate weaver knows all of my trump cards. The only thing she doesn't know is the star chart. In other words, the star chart will determine her judgment. Thank you. I really do want to know where that place is, but someone's bothering me right now, Gu Shan replied. Hearing Gu Shan's words, the old guide slowly stood up from the rock. It's fine. You've eaten the noodles I cooked. You're quite a decent young man. I'll help you stop her. He lightly floated up and landed next to Gu Shan. An invisible fluctuation appeared from his body, turning into a gentle breeze that swept around. Seeing this, the tall, slender woman's expression turned serious. Impossible. You might be the old guide, but this is the Gemini star. What right do you have to use the power inside your body? She muttered. Little girl, you should step aside, lest this old man injure you, the old guide said. While saying so, the old man gestured towards the stream. The water rose up, turning into a dancing water dragon that swam back and forth in the night sky. On the Gemini star, this was an earth-shattering sight. The tall, slender woman looked at the old man with flickering eyes. Who exactly is this person? That's right, Gu Qingshan has a jade gourd pendant that allows her to become completely invisible and borrow other people's abilities. If this person was created by borrowing my ability, how could not be bound by the Gemini star? She hesitated and said nothing, but instinctively took a defensive stance. As soon as Gu Qingshan saw that, he knew that the other party wouldn't easily lower his guard. He silently sighed and prepared to execute the second plan. But something unexpected happened. Out of both of their expectations, a commotion could be heard from the lower stream. As we all know, to survive in this world, other than being inside a red brick house, the only way is to get close to a stream. Only these two places did not have the existence of those strange things. Perhaps because Shanu's technique caused too much commotion, the water dragon that she created drew the attention of the other entities around the water. Moments later, a half-naked, dark-skinned man with a large saber in his hand ran over from downstream. The man also saw the three of them and stared straight at Shanu. The old guide, he exclaimed. As everyone knew, there was an old man with a very mysterious origin in the Gemini star. He didn't seem to be from any known race, and he specialized in cooking. It was said that as long as one ate the noodles he cooked, they would be able to please him and obtain the method to travel to certain worlds from him. The burly man threw away his knife without hesitation and knelt in the stream. He bowed repeatedly and said, "Old mister, please give me a bowl of noodles to eat." He took out a silver ingot from his trouser pocket and offered it with both hands. The three of them, who were originally at daggers drawn, froze. What was going on? The tall woman looked at the old guide with a bewildered expression, wondering if this was also a trap. After all, Gu Qingshan is too sly. I've seen with my own eyes how he managed to trick the entire divine race into becoming his loyal subordinates. I heard that this ability is called acting. What a terrifying ability. For now, the tall, slender woman decided to remain cautious and coldly observe. Gu Qingshan silently glanced at Shanu. Shanu immediately understood. "Ahaha, you want to eat my cooking?" she asked with her old voice. "Yes, old mister. I want to eat your cooking," the burly man confirmed again. "Don't be ridiculous. This is the legendary old guide. How could I let go of such a rare chance?" Shanu washed her hands with some water, used various spices, and quickly cooked a bowl of noodles. The man appeared excited, received the bowl, didn't care if it was hot or cold, and gulped it down, finishing both the soup and the noodles. After eating the noodles, the man appeared to be reminiscing, occasionally sighing. Shanu and Gu Qingshan said nothing. A few moments later, the man regained his senses and clasped his fist again. "Old mister, may I ask how I can travel to Flying Snow World?" You want to warp to Flying Snow World?" Shanu asked. The man sighed emotionally. Back in the day, this one was also the strongest in Flying Snow World, hoping that one day I would break through the void of space and come to this place. Who would have thought that this place would be so barren and desolate? This one couldn't use all of my skills, and I didn't know how to leave, so I could only endure every day saying so. His voice sounded like he was about to cry. "Old Mr. Wan Wong, please show me the way. This one swears to be a good person after I return and never break through the void of space again. I beg of you." Shanu thought for a bit, then smiled. "Since you ate a bowl of this old man's noodles, this one will show you a way. Consider yourself lucky, follow this stream, and walk 30 meters to the east. There's a jade tablet with the words East Wind written on it. Pick it up, use your thumb to touch the words on the jade tablet, and you'll be transported to the Flying Snow World." The man asked, "I won't be killed or eaten by it?" "I won't. My soul won't be sucked out and sealed for 10,000 years?" "I won't. I won't be blown to pieces." I won't. If you don't believe me, you don't have to do as I say. 30 meters, that's quite close. Thank you, old mister. The man gritted his teeth and made his decision. He really didn't want to stay in this world any longer. The burly man couldn't wait to run out and found a jade tablet on the ground 30 meters away from the stream. He used his thumb to touch the tablet. East wind, he excitedly called out. The jade tablet abruptly trembled, giving off a ripple that distorted the void of space. Shah! The man's entire body disappeared from this world, no longer leaving any trace. At this point, Shanu's inner sight sent her voice to Gu Qingshan's mind. Gongzi, due to the urgent situation just now, in order to gain the Fate Weaver's trust, I sent this person to another world, perhaps knowing that Gu Qingshan couldn't use inner sight. She continued to explain. That was a world of magic, according to the star chart. Men had already gone extinct in that world. Only women remained, and they were all exceptionally powerful. Although that man just now couldn't win against them, he was the only man, so he should be able to survive. Shanu's tone was a bit panicked. Gongzi, you're not talking about me, are you? What else could Gu Qingshan say? He could only quickly recall the description of that world from a star chart. Because men had gone extinct, the entire world was facing the threat of human extinction. Gu Qingshan cleared his throat and silently prayed for that man. Take care of yourself, brother. After the man left, the cracks in the void of space began to ripple like water before returning to normal. This was the characteristic of space warp. In other words, there really was a warp just now. The tall, slender woman looked at the jade tablet on the ground, then at the mysterious old guide. Gu Qingshan doesn't have this kind of ability. Indeed, Gu Qingshan has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, but how would he know how to travel to a completely unrelated world? The tall, slender woman was finally a bit convinced. At this point, the old guide continued. Young lady, this young man is my friend. If you continue to block my way, I'll have to take action. The tall, slender woman's eyes turned a bit, then suddenly smiled. Old sir, I'm not trying to stop you. I just want to try a bowl of your cooking as well. Wait. Gu Qingshan shouted. Old sir, you can't let her eat your food. She's not a good person. The old guide glared at him and spoke in dissatisfaction. What good or bad person, as long as she's willing to eat my noodles? She's a good girl. That's not it, old sir. She's actually a monster. The old guide looked at the tall, slender woman and doubtfully evaluated her. The tall, slender woman displayed an alluring smile and said, I simply want to try your excellent cooking. Please allow me to try it. The old guide grinned and nodded. Young lady, you have good eyes. While they were talking, the water dragon in the sky scattered. The old guide walked up to the tall, slender woman, took out his cooking utensils, and began to cook noodles. Old sir, you can't, Gu Qingshan hurriedly said. Cut the nonsense. The old guide ignored him. Gu Qingshan was standing in the China stream from afar, wanting to stop him but not daring to, so he had a helpless expression on his face. Seeing him like this, the tall, slender woman wasn't in a hurry to act. Gu Qingshan, she casually said, wherever you go, I'll go. What do you think? By the way, once you leave this world, it will be your death, so enjoy the last moments of your life. Chapter 9:59. A bowl of steaming hot noodles was quickly prepared. The old guide waved his hand, sending the bowl and chopsticks in front of the tall, slender woman. The tall, slender woman received the bowl with her hand. She glanced at the old guide. Now that my power has been sealed, I can't estimate the other party's strength. Fine. Who cares? I can revive after I die anyways. The tall, slender woman's gaze fell onto the bowl of noodles. She was still a bit hesitant. At this point, Gu Qingshan couldn't help but rush forward. He stared closely at the bowl of noodles and swung his sword, seemingly wanting to do something. The old guide struck his palm from afar. A sound of vibration resounded in the air. As soon as Gu Qingshan rushed forward, she was pushed back. The old guide spoke with a solemn expression. Don't cause trouble. Gu Qingshan was knocked back several feet by this palm strike and fell into the stream. He leaned on his sword and struggled to stand up, looking extremely haggard. The tall, slender woman looked at him, then at the bowl in her hand. The man from before had already eaten. Gu Qingshan had also eaten. None of them had any issues. Hesitantly, she first took a sip of the soup, felt it, and her frown loosened. Although her abilities had been sealed, she herself was a master of poison, so she only needed to taste it to know that there was no poison in this bowl of noodles. The tall, slender woman picked up the chopsticks and slowly ate. The noodles were chewy. The soup was delicious. A bowl of noodles wouldn't even taste like this at most. When was the last time I ate something like this? Steam drifted out from the bowl of soup, brushed past the woman's eyes, then scattered into the night wind. The tall, slender woman quickly finished her meal, washed the bowl and chopsticks in the stream, then returned them to the old guide. Seeing this, Gu Qingshan's mind was filled with countless thoughts. The man only ate the noodles, then put the bowl and chopsticks back on the rock and didn't care anymore. But the tall, slender woman was different. She even washed her own bowl and chopsticks after eating the noodles. These were all daily habits that a person had slowly developed over the years, so they couldn't be faked. As a combatant, no one would purposefully pretend for such a small matter, nor would they make themselves feel wronged. So this woman is truly strange. What kind of existence was she? At this time, the tall woman sincerely thanked him. "Old mister, I haven't eaten such food for a long time. Thank you for giving me this delicacy." The old guide said happily, "As long as you like it." The mystic-type spell had been completed. Now, it was time to reap the rewards. The old guide opened his mouth, about to ask that question. Before everything began, after Gu Qingshan and she had discussed it, the two of them decided to ask, "What is your greatest weakness?" Only by knowing her weakness would he be able to kill her. Otherwise, there was no point in talking about it. But at this moment, Gu Qingshan suddenly shouted, "Wait!" The old guide was stunned. The tall, slender woman also turned around and looked at him with killing intent. "Wait? There's nothing we can do to buy time now, Gu Qingshan." The tall, slender woman pridefully spoke. "You won't be able to go to any world because I'll be following you closely. But if you stay in this world, we'll die sooner or later. I can't die, but you only have one life." Saying so, she walked against the stream towards Gu Qingshan. Behind her, the old guide looked at Gu Qingshan with a doubtful expression. "We already agreed on this. Why didn't Gongzi let me ask?" Gu Qingshan loudly said, "I have a question. What do you want? Do you want to surrender?" The tall, slender woman chuckled. Gu Qingshan didn't care about her attitude and continued, "I want to know, under what circumstances did you decide to infiltrate humanity and carry out your assassination?" The tall, slender woman stood still, and the smile on her face disappeared. "What does this have to do with you?" "You're too curious," she coldly said. But Gu Qingshan wasn't saying that for her to hear. The old guide, Shanu, understood what Gongzi meant. A bowl of noodles can only ask a single question. Gongzi is telling me that he changed the question. What he wants to know is this new question. Shanu worriedly glanced at Gu Qingshan. If she asks this question, she won't be able to find out the Fate Weaver's weakness. Gu Qingshan resolutely nodded, telling her to ask. Shanu hesitated for a bit, then asked the tall, slender woman, "I want to know, under what circumstances did you decide to infiltrate humanity and carry out your assassination?" Mystic skill, see you once again, activate. The tall, slender woman could only hear endless echoes echoing around her ears as she appeared confused. For a split second, she seemed to have returned to the past. Without any warning, the tall, slender woman started sobbing. As if she was talking in her sleep, she spoke in a low voice. "The apocalypse has come. Countless comrades are dying in front of us every day. The primordial heaven realm is heading towards destruction. We received orders from the higher-ups to search for a suitable hiding spot for humanity on the surface of the abyss, as a path of retreat for humanity. But as soon as we entered the abyss, we ran into an unexpected situation. The monster that had been slumbering for eternity at the bottom of the abyss suddenly moved in its sleep. It was the most powerful entity in the entire abyss. Even a slight movement from it was enough to cause a catastrophic abyssal storm within the abyss. We were only able to resist the presence of the abyss's surface, so we couldn't do anything against the countless eerie presences that came from the endless abyss. Many people were infected by that presence, assimilated, and mutated. As soon as the higher-ups of humanity learned of the situation, they immediately sealed off our path of retreat, leaving us to die in the abyss. Not too long after, Everyone died. I was assimilated by the abyss, saying so. The tall, slender woman's expression shook a bit before returning to normal. She looked at Gu Qing-shan, who was standing a few dozen feet away from her, and asked in confusion, "You've lost your will to fight. Could it be that you're really thinking of how to surrender?" Gu Qing-shan looked straight into her eyes. Within her eyes that were full of ridicule, there was no longer any sadness or anger like before. She didn't even know what she just said. Gu Qing-shan's mind was in turmoil, completely stunned by the information he just heard. So she was a human. She was a combatant of the bygone era. Noticing his chaotic emotions, the tall, slender woman stopped hesitating. A chance! She leapt up and charged towards Gu Qing-shan again. Gu Qing-shan was still contemplating the entire situation, so as he saw the tall, slender woman charging at him, he retreated. "Coward! You don't want to fight me?" the tall, slender woman shouted. Bam! A heavy sound of impact resounded. The tall, slender woman was knocked back into the stream. She turned around. "Old mister, why did you stop me?" she asked. The old guide looked at her with a complicated expression in his eyes and replied, "You've all eaten the food I cooked. You're all good children. There's no need to fight and kill." The tall, slender woman looked at him and tilted her head. "Old mister, did you know? Although you can use your power, I'm undying. That ability of yours can still be used in this place?" The old guide appeared surprised. "That's right. If you try to stop me from killing him, then I'll have to offend you. I'll continue to pester you and fight you until the day of your death," the tall, slender woman replied. "That seems to be the case," Shanu regretfully said. "Your body is the strongest defensive weapon. I can't hurt you with my current strength. In the battle just now, Gu Qing-shan was using the twin swords Heaven and Earth. Although both the swords and Gu Qing-shan's power were sealed, the twin swords were still incredibly sharp divine weapons. But when the two swords struck the tall, slender woman's body, they didn't even leave a single mark. Hearing that, the tall, slender woman appeared triumphant. Chapter 960. During the bygone era, the abyssal fate weaver infiltrated the human race to take revenge, killing several combatants before finally being caught. The battle between her and the leaders of the human race was already a confrontation between the peak powers of the human race. In comparison, Gu Qing-shan was only a 3,000 worlds realm cultivator, not even a paragon realm cultivator. In the bygone era, he would only be a youth. To be exact, he was a civilian teenager. Because of that, even if Shanu was as powerful as Gu Qing-shan, she still wouldn't be able to win against this powerful enemy who once stood at the peak of humanity, only to be assimilated into the abyss. Indeed, on the Gemini star, the tall, slender woman lost the power granted by the abyss. At the same time, she was unable to use her own power. But her body wasn't something that Gu Qing-shan could harm. Fortunately, they were on Gemini star. Otherwise, the difference in strength between the two sides would be like the difference between heaven and earth. In that case, Gu Qing-shan wouldn't even have the chance to fight back. Gu Qing-shan stared at the tall, slender woman and suddenly realized something. Why would the sleeping magic dragon desire the power of the abyss so much? It was imprisoned in the abyssal jail, constantly watching over the abyssal fate weaver's body. It clearly understood just how terrifying the tall, slender woman's power was after she underwent abyssal assimilation. That was why the sleeping magic dragon desired the power of the abyss so much. It looked forward to its own transformation into the abyss, and then completely break away from the control of the human race. This was the starting point of all of Magic Dragon's plans. Gu Qing-shan took a few more steps back, keeping her distance from the tall, slender woman. The command center of the Abyss Jail had introduced her ability before. At that time, the command center once said that she had infiltrated the human race in disguise as a high-level leader in an attempt to destroy the entire human world. There were too many things that could be discussed here. So much time had passed that the truth was already very vague. But on the Gemini star, as the only one who could use her power, Shanu unleashed a mystic-type skill. See you once again. Under such circumstances, the mystic-type skill wouldn't be resisted, and the Fate Weaver wouldn't lie. Therefore, The truth seemed somewhat clear, but it was only an extremely short fragment of that era. The whole thing was still very vague. Gu Shan suppressed the anxiety in her heart and tried her best to remain calm so that she could continue thinking. "I actually have something to say to you," he said. "What?" the tall, slender woman asked. "All this time, I forgot to thank you." The tall, slender woman looked at him strangely. "Indeed," Gu Shan continued. "The 3 coins allowed me to continuously return to the age of old, but the process was so dangerous that even I had to waste several opportunities. For example, I was almost devoured by a monster in the fog of space-time, killed by the law of time in the Baihua Palace, and even when I was ignorant enough to stare into the eyes of the yellow dragon's soul. At that time, if it wasn't for you watching over me and pulling me back to the future right before I died, I'm afraid I would have died long ago." The tall, slender woman said nothing. Gu Shan continued. "The 3 coins can only travel through space-time. They can't bring me back from the dead. It was you who controlled the coins and pulled me back to the future before I died." "That's not it," the tall, slender woman replied. "You've underestimated the power of the 3 coins. I was actually activating the power of the coins when you died, reversing time to the moment when you were still alive, then pulling you back to the present moment." Gu Shan was a bit surprised. "This method seems a bit simpler. There's no need to be so precise." Gu Shan clasped her fist. "Thank you. Otherwise, I would have really died." The tall, slender woman appeared confused and said, "When you tried to kill me at the time, you didn't have this attitude right now." Gu Shan sincerely replied, "You were countless times stronger than I was. You had countless ways to kill me, and I only had that one chance to protect myself. So you're telling me these useless things now. What exactly do you want?" the tall, slender woman asked. Gu Shan spoke with a stern expression. "You've been planning for so long. What exactly are you trying to do?" "Why do I have to tell you?" "Because, Gu Shan raised the 2 swords in his hands. The twin swords, heaven and earth. The twin swords were in his hands. The tall, slender woman blankly stared at the 2 swords and muttered, "The main body of the abyssal weapons, the demon suppression weapons at the bottom of the endless abyss, the protector of extinction, the sword of destiny, the key to infinite worlds, heaven and earth." During their battle, just now, she had tried to grab these 2 swords, but failed. "Do you really want these 2 weapons?" Gu Shan asked. The tall, slender woman's eyes flickered and laughed deprecatingly. "The Soul Shrieker was a true monster of the abyss, an entity that I couldn't possibly win against, and even such a thing was killed. In the end, these 2 swords fell into the hands of the weakest one." "What a mockery of power." "No, I'm not the weakest one," Gu Shan replied. What do you mean?" "If the Soul Shrieker had the same level of power as I do, I bet that it wouldn't have been able to reach my current level." The tall, slender woman silently thought for a while, then nodded in agreement. "However, there are no ifs in this world," the tall, slender woman continued. "I admit that you've exerted your power to the limit, but the Gemini star doesn't have a technique like Earth in dual body. If you don't hand over your swords, she stopped herself. The old guide flew over and landed next to Gu Shan. It seems like at this moment, the old guide had chosen to stand on the same side as Gu Shan. The tall, slender woman scowled. "This guy was able to use his ability on the Gemini star, so he's quite troublesome. Indeed, he can't kill me, but if he wanted to take Gu Shan away, I wouldn't be able to stop him." The other party only needed to take Gu Shan away and occasionally throw a few offensive spells at me to help Gu Shan resolve her crisis. "Old sir, why do you insist on protecting him?" The tall, slender woman couldn't help but ask. The old guide glared at her. "He ate a bowl of my noodles, so I'll help him once. This is very normal." "I also ate a bowl of your noodles," the tall, slender woman replied. The old guide showed a troubled expression. The tall, slender woman observed the old guide's changing expression and said, "I can eat one more bowl. That way, you won't interfere with our business, right?" "No, I've already used up all of my ingredients for today. You'll have to wait until tomorrow." The old guide shook his head. Hearing that, the tall, slender woman felt that this was extremely ridiculous. But that wasn't a problem. The old guide did indeed exist on the Gemini star, and his story was passed down in many worlds. Just now, I even saw him guiding a person with my own eyes. That person managed to avoid all dangers and successfully teleported to a so-called flying snow world. The tall, slender woman thought for a bit and said, "In other words, the amount of food that you can provide each day is limited. As long as I eat enough first, he won't necessarily be able to eat anymore indeed, and you won't side with him anymore," the tall, slender woman continued. "You can understand it that way," the old guide replied. "I understand now." The tall, slender woman looked at Gu Shan and held back her killing intent. "In consideration of how I also ate a bowl of your noodles, I beg you not to tell him how to go to the world he wants to go to today," the old guide hesitantly said. "I can, but I'll be leaving you in a bit. As for tomorrow, we'll talk about tomorrow's business tomorrow," the tall, slender woman said. "Not today. This old man will help me today. Tomorrow. As long as I get ahead of him tomorrow." The tall, slender woman turned around and prepared to leave. "Wait!" Gu Shan shouted. The tall, slender woman stopped and coldly stared at him. "In the age of old, you already had the 3 coins. If you wanted to achieve something, you could have just done it. Why did you still want to steal that abyssal weapon?" Gu Shan asked. "That's my business. Why should I tell you?" The tall, slender woman coldly replied, "Because I have the twin swords heaven and earth. If there's anything you need help with, in consideration of how you once saved me in the space-time vortex, I'm willing to help you achieve it," Gu Shan replied. The tall, slender woman looked at him like he was a monster. Gu Shan nodded and confirmed again. "Without your coins, I wouldn't have been able to save the Earth Sword, nor would I have been able to return alive," the woman scoffed. "I only did that so that you could take me to the sword," Gu Shan replied. "Regardless of your goal, it doesn't change the fact that you did save me," the tall, slender woman mocked. "Do you want to repay me? Then give me the twin swords heaven and earth. I can't give you my swords, but I can use them to help you," Gu Shan spoke in a low voice. The tall, slender woman fell silent. She evaluated Gu Shan again. "You're a really strange person," she muttered. "It's not that I'm strange, but after careful consideration, I realize that it's only because of your spells and coins that I've been able to reach the end and obtain the twin swords heaven and earth," Gu Shan sincerely told her. "You didn't actually kill me, nor did you take the swords. Instead, I cut you into shreds and threw you into the countless fragments of parallel worlds. In the end, even after helping me so much, you didn't even harm a single hair on my body. To tell you the truth, there really isn't much of a grudge between the two of us." The tall, slender woman was originally listening with a calm expression, but now she raised her eyebrows and angrily shouted, "Humph! It's still too early to tell who's going to die. Just you wait. Gu Shan, I'll definitely kill you." She turned into a blurred image and quickly left this place. Gu Shan froze in place. After standing still for a while, he suddenly face-bombed and muttered in annoyance, "Oh no, I said something wrong. What I said just now was a bit hurtful." Shanu released her inner sight to observe that the tall, slender woman had gone very far before she came closer and asked, "Gongzi, what should we do next?" Gu Shan pondered. "We'll continue tomorrow. Trick her into eating noodles? Yes, then what about now? We'll go to the next world, huh?" Shanu raised her voice. "We'll go to the next world today, then come back tomorrow to meet her." Gu Shan recalled the description of the next world on the star chart and replied to Shanu, "Gongzi, I don't understand." Chapter 961. It was late at night. Gu Shan and Shanu walked along the stream towards the red brick house. On the way, they ran into a few more people. When they saw Shanu, all of them were overjoyed and begged her to guide them. Shanu didn't mind, so she pointed them in the right direction. However, this delay wasted a lot of time. To avoid being mistaken as the old guide again, Shanu temporarily turned back to her original appearance. Unfortunately, while no one asked for directions anymore, it also brought another problem. "Little girl, you're so pretty. Why do you want to follow a sickly person?" "That's right, pretty girl. Come with us. Looks like you two are a couple. If you don't want him to die, come with us." A few burly men stood by the stream and laughed with malicious intentions. Shanu looked at Gu Shan. "Kill Gu Shan," casually ordered. "Yes, Gongzi, the 6 Paths Great Mountain Sword, turned into a blurred image and disappeared into the night. Swallow returns. Silver star. Crescent slash. Drawn shadow. Shanu appeared a few dozen feet away with her sword wrapped around her body, lightly landing on top of the stream. Behind her, a pale blue sword phantom blossomed in the darkness like an orchid. The men didn't even have time to react before their hands and feet were chopped off and fell into the stream. It was only now that they let out an earth-shattering scream of pain. Gu Qingshan expressionlessly walked past them towards Shanu. "Why didn't you just kill them?" he asked. Shanu replied. "Give them some time to reflect." Gu Qingshan nodded and didn't ask any further. The two of them continued to head towards the red brick house. The screams of pain were left behind, slowly becoming weaker until they couldn't be heard anymore. After a few miles, Shanu hesitated a bit and said, "Gongzi, this world isn't that big, so my inner sight can almost cover it all." Gu Qingshan knew that she still had something to say, so she asked, "Then what?" "I found a few injustices," Shanu replied. What kind of injustices?" "For example, like what happened just now, as well as other kinds of bullying and enslavement. Go on. Since I've seen it, I don't want this to happen." "Yes." Shanu turned to look at him. "Gongzi, what do you mean by it?" "Kill them all," Gu Qingshan said as she pondered about the star atlas. On the entire star chart, the Gemini star was the starting point. So Gu Qingshan had to travel from here, pass through a few hidden worlds, and finally return to the 900 million world layers. The star chart was something the Earth Creator had prepared ahead of time. This great existence could see some of the future, and the things it prepared must have a deeper meaning. Fortunately, this big boss was on his side. A flash of light on the surface of the stream caught Gu Qingshan's attention, causing him to temporarily forget his previous thoughts. The Six Paths great mountain sword flew from afar and landed in front of Gu Qingshan. "Young master, I've killed them all." Shanu's voice came from the Six Paths great mountain sword. Gu Qingshan held the sword in his hand and soaked it in the stream. The blood was washed away. The sword once again glowed as bright as the autumn water. Shanu appeared and spoke with a carefree tone. "Gongzi, I've noticed something. What is it? How about we just stay on the Gemini star? Everyone's powers have been sealed. So with me here to take care of Gongzi, there won't be any issues." Gu Qingshan chuckled. "We can't be a cowardly turtle. What if someone destroys this world?" As soon as he said that, a thought flashed through his mind. A cowardly turtle. When I went from Baihua Palace to the Iron Fist Club, then from the Iron Fist Club to the Primordial Heaven Realm, I met a spirit tortoise. The spirit tortoise sent me into the phantom images. Unfortunately, the spirit tortoise couldn't follow me to the real age of old. I wonder how this guy who has lived for several 10,000 years is doing right now. Hearing Gu Qingshan's words, Shanu froze. That's right, even a powerful entity like the Earth Creator met with misfortune, let alone a single world like this. Shanu dejectedly said, "Seems like Gongzi will always be busy. It's fine, survival isn't easy in the first place. The apocalypse will only make this process more urgent. Not to mention, becoming stronger is a necessary thing. Once the apocalypse is over and everything is over, we'll be able to find a place to rest for a few hundred years. I really hope that day will come." Following the direction indicated on the star chart, Gu Qingshan and Shanu arrived at the red brick house. They easily found a crucial item inside one of the rooms, a wooden doll. Holding this doll, the two of them followed the stream to the end and saw a dry well. Standing in front of the well, Gu Qingshan asked, "Where's the abyssal fate weaver?" "She's resting by the stream about 400 miles away." Shanu released her inner sight to check and replied, "All right, let's go." Gu Qingshan and Shanu jumped into the dry well, broke through the wall at the bottom of the well, and arrived at a treasure vault. Inside the vault, all the treasures had already been taken away, leaving only a few empty stone chests. In truth, this was only a bluff, as there were no treasures here at all. The true purpose of this place was to connect to a certain hidden world. Gu Qingshan started counting from the left and stopped in front of the fifth stone chest. Indeed, this chest. Unfortunately, this chest could only fit one person at a time. Gu Qingshan looked at Shanu. Shanu obediently turned back into a sword and was tied to Gu Qingshan's waist. Gu Qingshan jumped into the chest, closed the lid, and took out the wooden doll. At first, the doll didn't move at all, but very quickly it began to speak. "Ah. I've been awakened." The doll looked up and looked around, then spoke in disbelief. After so many years, someone actually managed to find this hidden path to the elemental fairy world. Gu Qingshan said, "I'll have to trouble you to take me there. Will you return here?" "I will return," the doll nodded, took off one of its wooden legs, and put it in Gu Qingshan's hand. "When you want to return from the elemental fairy world, give this wooden leg a squeeze." Yes, the doll jumped down from Gu Qingshan's hand and went back into the chest. It knocked on a certain part of the chest. A certain mechanism inside the chest seemed to have been activated as it began to shake intensely. A screen of light enveloped the entire chest. Gu Qingshan felt an immense force pulling his body into the void of space. In the blink of an eye, he had vanished from this world. At another location, 400 miles away, the tall, slender woman was sitting cross-legged on top of a large tree, silently thinking about what happened today. "Do you want to repay me? Give me the twin swords heaven and earth. I can't give you my swords, but I can use them to help you. Damn it, it's because I trusted people too easily that I was abandoned in the abyss and turned into an abnormal monster. I can't trust the lies of humans anymore." The tall, slender woman clenched her fists tightly. At the same time, at another location, within this era's primordial heaven realm, a figure silently appeared. This figure seemed to be very familiar with this place, glancing around before flying towards the floating mountain gate. A few moments later, the spirit tortoise's voice resounded. "Why are you here? Everything in this world has come to an end. Chaotic energy is everywhere. It's very dangerous for you to stay here. You can recognize me." An immature female voice asked. "Of course, although your form has been altered by some sort of technique, I know that you are you," the spirit tortoise replied. In front of it, a young girl with a jade-like complexion stood in the air. She had an air of detachment that didn't match her age or appearance, as well as a very serious but cute expression that seemed to be pretending to be serious. "Recently, I sensed something, so I performed a divination. I discovered that the primordial heaven realms past had undergone some sort of great change. But this change didn't affect the entirety of history at all. This was a very unimaginable matter, because no matter who tried to change the past, they would be erased by the immense inertia of history and the law of space-time. But even though history had clearly been changed, everything in the current timeline was still normal and unaltered. That's why I couldn't help but take a look. After all, the ruins of our barren cloud heavenly palace are still here," Xie Dao Ling solemnly explained. The spirit tortoise appeared emotional and slowly spoke. "This is a long story, but in truth, the next sect master after you traveled through time and returned to the past." Chapter 962. The spirit tortoise was telling her about the events of the age of old. At the same time, Gu Qingshan left the Gemini star and traveled through the endless space vortex. A faint light slowly appeared in front of him. The sound of graceful singing and dancing could be heard from the light, calming anyone who heard it. Gu Qingshan was enveloped by the power of warp and went straight into the light. Thud! He stumbled and fell to the ground. The ground was soft. Gu Qingshan stood up in surprise and stepped on the luxurious and thick carpet. As far as the eye could see, the entire world was covered in a red carpet. The sound of melodious music occasionally resounded in the void of space. A young girl wearing a luxurious blue evening gown walked in front of Gu Qingshan. She observed Gu Qingshan and spoke in disdain. "Your power is too chaotic, and you're a bit old. You're not suitable to dance with me." Saying so, the young girl left. Wait! As soon as Gu Qingshan said that, the young girl had already disappeared without a trace. He looked around. There really wasn't anyone. Gu Qingshan stood still in shock. "I've already arrived at the elemental fairy world, but why can't I see anyone?" At this point, a woman with a hot figure wearing a nightgown appeared in front of him. "Not bad. Unfortunately, the power of your lightning laws is too chaotic. You're not worthy of being my friend." Saying so, the woman turned around and left. "Hey!" Gu Shan hurriedly called out. Before Gu Shan could say another word, the woman had already disappeared without a trace. What exactly is? Gu Shan looked around. Other than the red carpet that covered the entire world, there was still nothing else to be seen. While he was hesitating, he suddenly remembered that his restricted powers had been restored. Gu Shan immediately released his inner sight to scan the surroundings. Still nothing. However, there were many sounds of conversation, laughter, chanting, light footsteps, the sound of plates being placed, the sound of wine glasses clinking, and so on in a spiritual sense. Although nothing could be seen, it seemed that the world was holding a grand ball. Suddenly, a few men in dignified attire appeared in front of him. They glanced at him, then turned around and disappeared. The wind carried the voices of these people. Did I enter by mistake? No. He has the aura of an invitation letter on him. It seems like some big shots sent him here. What a pitiful fellow. His aura is completely chaotic. No one would be willing to pay attention to him. That's right. I feel dizzy just by smelling this aura. The sound faded away. A few breaths later, another group of noble women suddenly appeared, walking past Gu Shan. TSK, this young man is very handsome, but unfortunately his laws are a mess. Otherwise I would really, that's enough from you. How can you only look at appearances? You don't say. I'm actually mesmerized by the billions of wailing souls behind him. I also like this kind of youth. Unfortunately, his elemental aura is too nauseating. I can't get close to him at all. With such a chaotic aura, he definitely isn't one of our guests. I really don't know where he came from. He's covered in chaotic elemental energy. Even the guards don't care about him. Let's hurry up and leave. The noble women chatted among themselves as they disappeared into thin air. Gu Shan stood still and waited for a while longer. The noise around him grew louder and louder. The ball and banquet were slowly reaching its climax. But no one paid any attention to him while he stood here. It was as if the entire world had abandoned him. Gu Shan fell into thought and muttered in confusion. Did you bring me here purely to send me back? Or do you have something you want to tell me? The Earth Creator was able to see countless fragments of the future. For a great entity like itself, everything it did had its own meaning. But now that I've arrived in this world of elemental fairies, I'm not welcomed at all. I can't see anything, as if I've been shut out. What should I do now? While Gu Shan was thinking, a hoarse female voice resounded in her ears. Child, why are you standing here by yourself? Gu Shan abruptly turned around, only to see an old woman in a black formal dress with a veil over her face carefully observing him. She wasn't very tall. Her back was slightly hunched, her gray eyes as deep as the ocean. Ah, nice to meet you. I've just arrived at your realm and haven't found my way around yet, Gu Shan politely replied. The old woman spoke apologetically. Please don't take it to heart, as elemental fairies are very sensitive to auras. They have their own likes and dislikes, Gu Shan replied. I respect the likes and dislikes of others, and I've never interfered with such matters, the old woman asked further. You don't mind being looked down upon? Gu Shan helplessly replied. Of course I would feel a bit disappointed, but I don't usually try to please others, so I can accept it. What do you usually do? Save the world and kill people. The apocalypse of the infinite worlds is right in front of your eyes, but you still want to save the world. Don't you feel tired? My days are still passable, but I really have to say that I have no interest in saving the world. If possible, please replace me with someone else who can do anything about this. Work has always been a tiring and exhausting job. What do you like to do to relax when you're resting? I don't have any elegant hobbies. I just like to cook. I believe that. You carry the scent of a lot of delicious food. Unfortunately, the children were too scared to smell it, the old woman replied. Gu Shan doubtfully asked, Aura? What do you mean? The old woman smiled. Very well. I'll explain a bit for the elves. The majority of elemental fairies are very simple. Without the baptism of time, they wouldn't be able to understand what the aura on your body is like. The old woman reached her hand out and continued. Because they don't know, they would feel fear in their hearts. This is the nature of living beings. I think you should understand this, I do. Gu Shan politely replied. He reached out his hand to support her. The old woman led him forward, murmuring to herself, Water Fairy was attracted by your elemental lightning, then left because of your abyssal aura. The Fire Girl likes companions full of destructive elemental lightning, but left because of the magic dragon aura on your body. The guards were cautious because of your killing intent, while the noble women were afraid of you. In truth, their lives are nothing more than entertainment, occasionally responding to the call of other worlds and bestowing elemental power to others. In truth, they didn't realize that it wasn't your aura that they hated, but rather an indescribable fear of you, fear of the unknown. Gu Shan smiled. Indeed, you carry the remnant aura of a parallel world on your body. They don't understand this aura at all, but they can faintly sense this terrifying power, the old woman explained. You're saying that this is a terrifying power, Gu Shan confirmed again. Yes, you're too eye-catching right now. Once you're in a certain environment, you'll immediately attract everyone's attention because you're mixed with the causality of many parallel worlds. Fortunately, those causalities are only intermittent fragments, so they can still be resolved. Can you help me? Gu Shan asked. The old woman blinked at him. Of course I can help you. In truth, I've already noticed you as soon as you appeared in our world. Gu Shan's heart calmed down. Perhaps the Earth Creator sent me away from this world for this very reason. Other than that, I can't explain why it placed me in a world that I can't integrate into it all. Moreover, the other party knew his background. If you can help me erase these auras, I will be eternally grateful, Gu Shan said. The old woman smiled and patted Gu Shan's shoulder. This cloak of yours is quite decent. It's more than enough to conceal other auras. Only the terrifying aura of a parallel world. I'll have to erase it. She raised her voice and chanted an incantation. Time cannot be messed up. Only when it returns to its original trajectory can living beings be at peace instantly. Gu Shan felt a wave of warm water flowing through his body. He felt his body loosening up. It was as if something heavy and invisible had disappeared from his soul. 2 lines of glowing text appeared in the void in front of him. The ancient elemental fairy king. The fairy of time has thoroughly erased the parallel world aura from your body. Note, she is a fairy who has existed for eternity since the age of immemorial. Make sure to be cautious when speaking to her. It was rare for the war god UI to give such a reminder, so Gu Shan immediately understood the severity of the situation. Venerable lady, thank you for helping me erase the parallel world aura. He hurriedly thanked her. Chapter 963. Gu Shan supported the old lady and walked forward together. Parallel world corrosion. Duty. The old lady's words made him silently pay attention. He recalled that the Earth Creator also said something similar to stop the abyssal monsters from stealing the twin swords heaven and earth. However, what the Earth Creator said was to stop the abyssal monsters from obtaining the weapons of the eternal abyss and prevent people from entering parallel worlds. The Earth Creator didn't mention the parallel world corrosion. Gu Shan thought for a bit, then decided to ask. Milady, I have a small question. Speak, the old lady replied. You said that your duty is to erase the parallel world corrosion, but I've never seen any parallel worlds intersect with our world. Could it be that parallel worlds are also a threat? Gu Shan asked. It's not a threat. The old lady looked at Gu Shan, then added when his eyebrows loosened. It's the apocalypse. The apocalypse? Gu Shan was confused. The other party was the elemental fairy queen, a fairy that existed eternally in time and space. So Gu Shan believed that she wouldn't randomly lie about such a thing. The old lady didn't say anything and simply waved her hand in front of herself. The void of space scattered. Everything appeared in front of Gu Shan. A grand banquet was about to begin, while he and the old lady stood on the Grand Cathedral's royal viewing platform, watching the crowd below. The elemental fairies sensed the arrival of their queen, so they stopped their banquet and bowed to greet the old lady on the platform. No need to be so courteous. Have fun. The old lady waved her hand to greet the crowd below and smiled. Suddenly, a sharp scream resounded. That young man, I saw him just now. This was the voice of the water elemental fairy from before. The old lady made a mocking expression and told Gu Qing Shan. She seems a bit regretful, Gu Qing Shan politely replied. She was just a bit excited to see you. Do you think she's beautiful? Yes, of course, water elves have the most outstanding appearance and posture, HM. I suddenly noticed that you're not too far away from Masvara King realm. Would you like me to bestow you a water elfkin? I appreciate your kindness, but I already have a beloved girl. The old woman's interest was piqued. She whispered, Water fairy is the elemental spirit that is most compatible with humans. She can help you give birth to hundreds of children. You can definitely marry her. I can actually make the decision on this matter. Gu Qing Shan's entire body stiffened, and she forced herself to say, but I can't even feed myself right now, and there are still many things that I have to do. That's true. It's indeed not suitable for you to start a family right now, the old woman said regretfully. Gu Qing Shan breathed a sigh of relief. The old woman led him out of the platform and slowly walked towards the royal court. All right, let them play by themselves. Let's discuss your question, the old woman said as she walked. Indeed, venerable lady, I am a bit confused about the parallel world, because the Earth Creator has been preventing the monsters of the abyss from obtaining the twin swords Heaven and Earth, Gu Qing Shan replied. Child, how is your memory? The old woman suddenly changed the topic and asked. Gu Qing Shan was startled and replied, Not bad. Then do you remember anything that happened when you were young? That's a long time ago. I only remember a bit. When you were young, was there a time when you were particularly fond of swimming? Do you know? Yes, that's right. It was probably during the summer when I was 6 years old. Is there anything else that left a deep impression on you during that summer? Gu Qing Shan appeared nostalgic and answered after a while. I seem to recall that many countries had signed the robot convention at the time, and the public screens around the poolside were showing this every day. The old woman clapped her hands and happily said, Let us take a look at what happened during the summer when you were 6 years old. Following her words, the entire world completely scattered into sand, disappearing from the surroundings of the two of them. The two of them appeared in a different scene. The sun was scorching hot. The weather was scorching hot. Gu Qing Shan looked at her topless younger self, wearing a pair of cute swimming shorts while sitting by the pool. A large screen on the building next to the pool was showing an intense sports match. By the pool, quite a few people were staring at the screen, drinking beer while cheering for their favorite team. The young Gu Qing Shan was also kicking the water with her feet while watching the match on the screen. The old woman said, I don't think I've seen any news about the robot convention, Gu Qing Shan confirmed. It'll probably be shown after the match is over. I remember it very clearly. They'll definitely show something about the robot convention. The old woman chanted an incantation and smiled. Let's make time pass a bit faster. As if she had pressed the fast-forward button, everyone around the pool quickly moved. Time passed. Before they knew it, the public screen flashed. We'll now broadcast an important piece of news. The world's robot convention has been successfully established. Please read the details. On the screen, the world's leaders were sitting in a conference room, jointly announcing the news. We've established this convention to prevent the robots. Their voices came from the screen. For some reason, as Gu Qing Shan saw this, she couldn't help but sigh in relief. Take a look. He pointed at the screen and spoke to the old woman. The old woman smiled. HM, I can see it now. That's good. You've taken a turn and stepped onto a new path. However, what we need to observe now isn't the news you remember, but rather, the old woman clapped her hands. The voice on the screen disappeared. The leader of the country who spoke maintained his impassioned expression, his waving hands still in the air. Around the pool, everyone's movement stopped. Someone was licking the ice cream in his hand. Someone leapt high up into the water, his body hovering in the air without moving. Someone was yawning with his mouth wide open. Someone was paddling in the water, splashing water everywhere and freezing in the air. Is this time stop? Gu Qing Shan asked. No, this is a space-time stop spell, a small trick that I'm good at while answering. The old woman pointed around. Now I'm going to test you. Take a closer look at these people and find out what's wrong. Gu Shan was surprised. What's wrong? What does that mean? But since she said so, Gu Shan could only nod to express that he understood and walked toward the pool. While walking, he carefully observed his surroundings. The pool was normal. The crowd was normal. The buildings were normal. The screens and facilities were normal. After confirming the situation, Gu Shan turned to look at the old woman. The old woman's face was covered by a veil, so Gu Shan couldn't see her expression, but he could sense that she was smiling noncommittally. This attitude means that there really is something wrong with this place. This is just a normal scene from the past. How could there be anything wrong with it? While convincing himself, Gu Shan continued to walk around the pool. He released his inner sight and scanned the entire swimming pool. The pool was normal. The crowd was normal. The buildings were normal. The screens and facilities were normal. Wait a minute. Gu Shan suddenly stopped and looked at a young man. This man had a normal appearance, wearing swimming trunks, a can of beer in his hand, leaning back on a chair, watching the public screen. He seemed a bit excited, clenching his fist tightly, about to cheer. Cheer! Gu Shan observed this normal-looking man. He couldn't help but walk in front of the man, taking a closer look. Even though his inner sight allowed Gu Shan to see clearly, he still couldn't help but do this, as if he couldn't convince himself otherwise. As Gu Shan looked at the man, he felt a chill coming from his body. That's not right. Gu Shan was startled, feeling an unprecedented sense of fear gripping his heart. He quickly turned around to look at the scene on the public screen. On the screen, the leader of the country was still in the posture of giving a speech. His arm was still waving in the air. That's right. It really is news about the robot convention. Gu Shan turned around to face the young man again. The man's expression was a bit expectant, holding his breath, waiting for a certain moment to come. The man was ready to cheer and cheer. The scene on the screen was faintly reflected in his eyes. To capture a scene from a person's eyes, it required the use of specialized equipment in order to see it clearly. But with his inner sight, Gu Shan was able to clearly see what was being reflected in the man's eyes. In the man's eyes, a group of athletes were fiercely fighting for the ball. They were making their final effort to win the match. In the man's eyes, there was no such thing as the robot convention. Gu Shan couldn't help but take a few steps back. He released his inner sight to scan the entire swimming pool. Very quickly, he discovered a terrifying truth. Even though the news was being broadcasted on the screen, at least a third of the people here were still watching the ball game. Gu Shan couldn't help but take a step back. Even though we're in the same space-time, the robot convention is still being broadcasted. Why aren't there any of them watching it? This eerie scene was beyond his understanding of the world, completely overturning his memories. If I can't rely on anything that happened around me, then what else is real? What exactly is everything that I'm experiencing right now? Gu Shan closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried his best to remain calm. The old lady observed him and was pleased to see how calm he was. This level of truth was more than enough to destroy a person's willpower, and this brat appeared to be much calmer than most. The old lady muttered to herself in satisfaction. What a calm and collected brat. No wonder the Earth Creator wanted me to take a look at you. Gu Shan returned and respectfully asked, Madam, I don't understand. What exactly is going on? The old lady asked in return. Do you remember what we were talking about at the start? Gu Shan was surprised and couldn't help but recall. Indeed, the esteemed elemental fairy king had even personally helped me erase the presence of a parallel world. Chapter 964. There is no need to panic, my child. In truth, this is only a slight disturbance from a parallel world, the old lady calmly told her. A slight disturbance? Gu Shan asked. Indeed, when you were 6 years old, a parallel world was destroyed during the apocalypse. The impact of its destruction caused our world to become slightly chaotic, the result of which was the experiences of a certain number of people were different from others because they experienced what happened in the parallel world at that time, and not what was happening in our space-time. That is exactly what happened, the old lady replied. Gu Shan pondered for a long while before continuing. In my world, there was once a famous person. Many people believe that he had died at a certain time, but he had actually always been alive. When he truly died, it caused a huge commotion. Everyone found out that their memories were all wrong. Furthermore, when many people gathered together to reminisce about the past, some people's memories were different from everyone else's. The old lady praised her. That is indeed the case. These are only minor disturbances caused by the destruction of a parallel world. There is no need to pay too much attention to them. Then what do we need to pay attention to? Gu Qing Shan asked. Descending from a parallel world after its destruction, the old lady's voice slowly became lower. In truth, our main concern is for the things that come from the parallel world. She continued to explain. When a parallel world is destroyed, a few things that deviate from the parallel law would most likely descend into our world. One of them would be entities that escaped from the apocalypse. Entities that managed to survive until the very last moment of the apocalypse were all the most powerful individuals or races. Because of that, when a parallel world is destroyed and all the laws of that world collapse, these individuals or races would no longer be bound by the parallel law and would most likely escape into our world that is still acceptable. But there's another situation that we are most afraid of at this point. The old lady couldn't help but deeply sigh. Gu Qing Shan asked further, what is that? The old lady didn't answer her directly and instead said, an apocalypse that can completely destroy a parallel world is extremely terrifying. Do you understand that? Gu Qing Shan thought briefly and nodded. If there was a type of calamity that could destroy the entire 900 million world layers, the eternal abyss, the space-time labyrinth, every single place within the 900 million world layers, as well as all living beings within it, then this calamity would definitely be terrifying, almost unstoppable. Gu Qing Shan answered with uncertainty. But that's a parallel world apocalypse. It wouldn't happen in our world. That should be the case, right? Of course, the apocalypse will not leave its original world. At this point, the old lady's tone became even colder. But after a parallel world is destroyed, its remains may bring some sort of apocalyptic disaster to our world. Gu Qing Shan exclaimed in shock. If it's an apocalyptic disaster that could destroy the world, wouldn't our world be destroyed as well? The old lady shook her head. For the corpse of a parallel world and the apocalypse it carried, it would be very difficult to change from a parallel state to a descended state. It would consume a large amount of power. Those apocalyptic calamities that descended upon our world are no longer as powerful, so they don't cause too much of an impact. At least under normal circumstances. Under normal circumstances. Gu Qing Shan repeated. The old lady smiled and continued. You've run into a man-killer fiend and a man-eater fiend, correct? Indeed, that was a parallel world apocalypse. Originally, it swept through the entire space of that parallel world. Not only were there man-killer fiends and man-eater fiends, there were also over 1,000 different forms, some of which couldn't be resisted at all and directly destroyed billions of worlds. Although this apocalypse managed to reach our world, it had already used up all of its power, leaving only the man-killer fiends and man-eater fiends. That's why I was able to deal with them, Gu Qing Shan added. Correct, then the game of eternal. It was also a weakened version of the apocalypse. Originally, it forced all living beings to participate. Aside from that, the corpse of a parallel world would also affect our world. For example, as we said before, many people were in the same space-time, but went through many different things. What's the biggest threat? Gu Qing Shan suddenly asked. The old lady looked at him and went silent. Gu Qing Shan also went silent. That's right. This was only under normal circumstances. Under normal circumstances, everything was fine. But aside from normal circumstances, there were also unexpected, unknown, indescribable, and incomprehensible situations. The old lady suddenly smiled and looked up at him. You've grown up, even within the 900 million world layers. You're already a Lord-class figure. You're about to shoulder your responsibilities, so you should know a bit of the truth. She waved her hand in the void of space. The sky, the earth, the skyscrapers, the swimming pool, the screen of light, the people, everything disappeared. What replaced them was a dark, obscured space. Gu Qing Shan looked at her in confusion. She gestured. This is the final moment of the Earth Creator's life. I hope you can take a look. Gu Qing Shan then looked towards the boundless void of space. only to see a bright and resplendent nebula filled with gray turbulence, quickly moving towards a certain direction. Gu Qingshan sensed a familiar presence from it. Indeed, this was the Earth Creator. It turned into a nebula and gradually appeared in front of a door made entirely of bronze. This gate was so gigantic that even the nebula paled in comparison. This scene seemed to have been shrunk down countless times by the old lady to be able to see it in its entirety. Otherwise, Gu Qingshan doubted that even if he was here, he wouldn't know what happened. The nebula stopped in front of the gate, turned into a giant covered in gray air, and reached its hand out to push the bronze gate open. The Earth Creator, as it placed its hands on the bronze gate, it seemed to have noticed something and sighed deeply. So that's how it is. I had thought that the future I foresaw was ridiculous, but who knew this would happen in the age of old? So everything makes sense. The gray air around the Earth Creator quickly disappeared, as if it had been erased into thin air. Following that, its legs also began to crumble into fine dust that scattered into the void of space before disappearing without a trace. The Earth Creator's body began to collapse and disappear. At the very last moment, it tossed out a bright star and shouted, "Disintegrate!" When the star heard this, it immediately streaked across the sky and flew toward the depths of the endless world. The Earth Creator looked towards the old lady and spoke in a low voice. "I know you can definitely see this. My fate has ended. The rest is up to you," it finally chanted. "Death is the only path for all living beings, and I shall be the first saying so." It disappeared from the bronze gate. The old lady waved her hand. The scene faded away. Gu Qingshan found herself and the old lady standing in the middle of a luxurious royal palace with no one around. "Why did it suddenly die?" Gu Qingshan asked in a low voice. The old lady took out a handkerchief and wiped the corner of her eyes. "It can't be helped. This is the most terrifying aspect of a parallel world. Fate corrosion. What is fate corrosion? As you can see, when a parallel world is destroyed, it will cause a slight deviation in our world. This is also a type of fate corrosion, but as you said, we don't need to pay too much attention to such a situation indeed. When the deviation is small enough, we can simply ignore it. But there is a certain situation that surpasses the limits of what we can deal with parallel worlds that are countless times more powerful than us. When they are destroyed, they will invade our world and change the fate of everyone in our world, for example. The Earth Creator is still alive and well in our world. But near the Bronze Gate, there is a parallel world that has already been corroded. This parallel world is incredibly powerful, constantly fighting against the apocalypse, breaking away from the definition of parallel and falling into our eternal abyss. Right next to the reality gate, as soon as the living beings of our world approach the reality gate, their fate will be completely assimilated and corroded. Gu Qingshan went silent for a while, then asked, "What you mean is in that parallel world, the Earth Creator is already dead. So whenever the Earth Creator of our world approaches it, it must accept this fate." That is indeed the case. Even as powerful as it was, it couldn't resist this fate. Gu Qingshan was still unwilling to accept it. "Wait a minute. I can't accept this. How could such a powerful entity be killed by something as intangible as fate? Child, this is the fate of an entire parallel world. It isn't something a single person can go against. Not even I can do it," the old lady sighed. "Which means our eternal abyss is currently enduring the fate of that powerful parallel world, as well as the aftermath of that parallel world apocalypse." "You're right again, child. You are very smart, as expected of the person that the Earth Creator valued so highly." The old lady praised her. She reached out and took out a bright star. Her expression became solemn and cautious. "Earth, water, fire, and wind are the four saint pillars that make up this world. None of them can be missing. Take this, from today onwards, you will be the new earth of the four saint pillars." Chapter 965. As soon as the bright silver star was taken out, Gu Qingshan's inventory bag twitched a bit. The gold coin jumped out and circled around the blinding star. Ding, 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 it let out a choking and sobbing sound. The old lady sighed. This is the Earth world's life star, as well as a part of the gold coin. They can sense each other, and only by holding both of them can one wield the Earth Saint Pillar. Hearing that, Gu Qing Shan finally understood. No wonder the gold coin couldn't sense the Earth Creator's death. Because the Earth Creator left the silver star as a legacy at the very last moment of its life, not allowing it to be destroyed along with itself. Because of that, while the gold coin could sense that the silver star was still intact in the Earth world, it couldn't sense the Earth Creator through the silver star, nor could it determine the Earth Creator's exact situation. Gu Qing Shan still insisted. Before I left the Earth world, I received a few words from the Earth Creator. It told me not to save it. This proves that it was still confident, the old lady explained. At the time, it mistakenly believed that the calamity related to it would occur in the future, not realizing that it would only encounter a calamity when it returned to the age of old. Because of that, even though it was able to foresee the future, it still made a mistake. Because of that, it left us. The old lady waved her hand at the gold coin. The gold coin fell in her hand and fused with the silver star. A blinding flash of light. A gold and silver coin with complicated runes and patterns appeared in the old lady's hand. Take it. You shall become the new earth of the four saint pillars, the old lady gestured to Gu Qing Shan. Gu Qing Shan hesitantly replied, My strength is still miles away from the Earth Creators. I'm worried that I won't be able to handle such a heavy responsibility, the old lady smiled and replied. For you, it is indeed too early, so leave everything else to us. You only need to protect the Earth world. But this coin is too precious. I'm worried that I won't be able to protect it, Gu Qing Shan said. You won't be able to protect it? Child, it seems you have misunderstood something. This coin's purpose is to protect you, unless you allow it. No one else would be able to learn anything about this coin in the age of old. Earth, water, fire, and wind were known as the four pillar gods that created the world. None of them could be missing. The old lady encouraged her further. Gu Qing Shan, you did very well in the Earth world and received the recognition of the coin, while the Earth God represented the will of the Earth Creator. The Earth God had also chosen you, so you are suitable, not allowing her to refuse. The gold and silver coin with intricate patterns, the old lady gently placed it in Gu Shan. Gu Qing Shan took a deep breath and said, All right, I'll make it clear first. I'm currently unable to reach the Earth Creator's level. Don't think too much. The road ahead is still long. You just need to do what you think is right and slowly grow, the old woman said with a smile. The coin instantly got that into Gu Qing Shan, the coin star. As it disappeared, a few lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI, frowny face, unique item. The coin of the earth has fused with you. Before you become strong enough, it will not appear in front of you again. You've obtained a certain status. You've become the master of the four saint pillars. Thanks to the manifestation of the Earth Saint Pillar's power, you've obtained 3 abilities. True luck. True luck surrounds you for a duration of 12 hours. Description. Luck isn't omnipotent. Keep that in mind. The coin's own explanation. You can't do anything without luck? Isn't that right? Absolute prohibition. Any target you strike will have all of their supernatural powers sealed away. Duration 1 minute. Protection. Regardless of where you are, you'll be able to return to the Earth world. Special note. You can only use one of the above 3 abilities at a time, and you must rest for 30 days after using them before you can choose another ability to use. Description. Enemy-killing swordsmanship is hidden deep within your mind. When you are qualified, you will slowly comprehend it. Description. Before you become strong enough, the coin of the earth will not appear in front of you again. Thanks to the power of fusion, the power of the coin of the earth can now be used. Gu Qing Shan quickly skimmed through everything. He took a deep breath and spoke with a bit of unease. Milady, you've directly given me such a precious item. Don't thank me, the old lady cut him off. You've already saved too many lives before this. You've averted too many calamities and apocalypses. So from the unseen world, a greater responsibility will fall upon you. This is the law of fate. Seeing Gu Qing Shan's anxious expression, the old lady chuckled. Don't worry, it's still too early for you to fight alongside us. We will protect you and give you enough time to grow. She took out a snow-white piece of parchment. lightly cut her finger, and left a bright red fingerprint on it. "You do the same," the old lady gave the parchment to Gu Qing-shan. As Gu Qing-shan received it, the parchment was written in ancient elven script frowny face by this secret covenant. The controller of time, the sand of inextinguishable, the legendary Milady, the queen of elemental elves, the elf of time whose real name is Fusey, and the master of the earth's saint pillar, Gu Qing-shan, hereby make a secret covenant that all information related to the earth's saint pillar shall be sealed and kept secret by her until the master of the earth's saint pillar, Gu Qing-shan, dissolves this covenant. Thank you for your care. I am truly grateful. Gu Qing-shan clasped his fist. With this covenant, no one would ever discover his true identity again. He would be able to slowly grow until the day he becomes strong enough. Gu Qing-shan made a cut on his finger and left a fingerprint on the parchment. Ho! Flames erupted from the parchment and quickly devoured the entire parchment. The old lady patted Gu Qing-shan's arm and said, "Very well, child. Go do what you need to do. I can already see it. One day in the future, at that crucial moment, we will meet again. I hope I'll be able to become stronger at that time," Gu Qing-shan replied. In truth, there are 5 possibilities regarding your strength in the future. Do you want to hear them to determine your direction? Gu Qing-shan smiled. "What the future holds will depend on how hard I work right now. So I only need to do what I need to do. No need to ask too much." The old lady was a bit surprised. Then her eyes glowed. She laughed heartily. "That's right. As soon as you said that, I saw a few more better possibilities for you. What a delightful young one. Let me help you in secret." She took out an amber ring and gave it to Gu Qing-shan. "Your eyes contain the true meaning of your swordsmanship. I've thought about it for a bit and felt that there's a power that suits you very well. What is the power you speak of?" In the words of you cultivators, this power is called a thaumaturgy. When you reach the next realm, this ring will bring you to the remains of a parallel world where you will obtain this power that I'm talking about. Thank you for your generosity. Now, you can go do what you need to do. Young one, farewell, milady, farewell. Gu Qing-shan took out the wooden doll's leg and squeezed it. In a split second, an extremely strong pulling force came over. Gu Qing-shan was directly pushed out of the elemental fairy's world. The old lady stood still and thought for a bit, then turned around to leave. Suddenly, a voice came from beside her. "You entrusted the will of the earth to him, then showed him the path, but he is still so weak. Is that good?" The old lady asked in return. "If I don't even do that, what kind of elven king would I be? Or rather, what are you worried about?" The voice explained, "I'm worried that he will become too reliant on the power you gave him and lose his will to fight, no longer trying his best to improve himself." The old lady didn't mind. "It's fine, he is worthy of it." The voice was confused. "Milady, why do you think so highly of this young one?" "Because before he came, I specifically returned to the river of time to observe what he had done. I feel that the Earth Creator didn't choose the wrong person." Chapter 966. It was completely dark. Gu Qing-shan abruptly looked up. The lid of the large box had been knocked open. The only things in the room were empty boxes. Other than that, there was nothing else. This was the secret room of the Gemini star. Gu Qing-shan had returned from the world of the elemental fairies. Suddenly, he felt something struggling in his hand. Looking down, he saw that it was the doll's leg. As soon as he let go, the doll's leg slipped from his hand into the box and was put back into the doll's body. "I'm so tired. I need to go back and rest for a bit. If you want to go to the world below again, you can call me at the red brick house," the doll tiredly said. Gu Qing-shan crouched down and clasped his fist. "You've worked hard. I don't know how to thank you." The doll was about to leave, but hesitated as it heard that. "You're a cultivator?" it asked. "Yes," Gu Qing-shan replied. "Do you have spirit stones?" "Just let me take a look, because I've collected a lot of rocks, but I've never seen a spirit stone before," the doll nervously asked. Gu Qing-shan thought for a bit, then took out a spirit stone and put it in front of the doll. He purposefully picked out a top-grade spirit stone of the highest quality, as it looked almost transparent like a crystal. As soon as this top-grade spirit stone was taken out, it gave off a faint white mist that drifted around the spirit stone. This white mist was the spirit energy that the spirit stone gave off. A normal person would feel refreshed just by smelling it. So this is a spirit stone. How beautiful. The doll happily touched the spirit stone and said, I'll give it to you, Gu Qingshan said. For me? Can I really? The doll looked up at him with a look of longing. Gu Qingshan sincerely replied, Of course I can. I have a lot of spirit stones. Giving me a single one is nothing to me. Please accept it. This represents my sincerity. The doll was overjoyed and cheered. That's great. I've got another type of rock in my collection. I'm one step closer to having an exhibition. It nodded at Gu Qingshan, took the spirit stone, and disappeared into the void of space. Gu Qingshan was infected by the little wooden puppet's happiness and also smiled. Suddenly, he felt an inexplicable throbbing. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but shake her body. Gongzi, Shanu's anxious voice called out. Gu Qingshan took a deep breath and said, It's nothing. It's probably the cultivation tribulation. After leaving everything behind in the earth world and hiding in the desert for a long and steady period of cultivation, it was finally time to reap the rewards. The cataclysm would begin in a few days. Gu Qingshan fell silent. A thought flashed through his mind. He seemed to have recalled something just now. Gu Qingshan pondered, trying to get that thought out of her head. Gongzi, there's still a bit of time. We need to quickly deal with the abyssal fate weaver, Shanu's voice resounded. Since Gu Qingshan's train of thought was cut off, he could only reply, But the other party is an eternal entity. We need to think of a solution first. After saying that, the thought just now had already disappeared without a trace, so he couldn't recall it right now. Gu Qingshan stood up from the box, left the secret room, and went to the bottom of the well. Indeed, just like Shanu said, it was time to face the abyssal fate weaver again. But the thought I had before seems to be very important as well. Just as he was thinking, he was suddenly attracted by another matter. This was a very serious problem. Although the well wasn't very tall, the walls were smooth and had no place to climb. On the Gemini star, the powers of all living beings were in a sealed state. So as a normal person, Gu Qingshan couldn't climb up right now. Because of that, he once again gave up on that thought and had to deal with the matter at hand first. There was no other way to climb up. After thinking for a bit, he could only Shanu. Gongzi, I'm here, Shanu appeared. Don't worry, Gongzi, I'll do it, Shanu smiled as she lifted Gu Qingshan up, hugged him by the waist, and flew upwards. At this time, on the Gemini star, the night had already passed. The sun had just risen. Its light shone through the clouds, illuminating the stream below, giving the entire world a warm, hazy hue. Within the light, a beautiful woman carrying a young man flew out from the dry well and stably landed on the ground. This planet. This seal I don't like it. Gu Qingshan cleared his throat and spoke in a hurried manner. He quickly left Shanu's embrace and stood up. Shanu smiled so brightly that her eyes looked like crescent moons, silently stood on one side, and didn't say anything. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but continue. We need to hurry up, go and see where the abyssal fate weaver is. Shanu released her inner sight to scan the entire planet. She's downstream of the stream, looking for the old guide. Very well, let's go meet her again and see what kind of secret she has. What should we do? Well, first, downstream of the stream, the tall, slender woman closed her eyes, standing motionlessly on top of a large rock. Since this morning, she had already searched along the stream twice, but still couldn't find any trace of the old guide. This old man is too mysterious. There's no way for her to grasp his whereabouts. Perhaps he's the master of the Gemini star? Right now, she had no choice but to rely on her highly developed sense of smell to sense the various scents. The last time she found the old guide, it was also because of the smell of noodles carried by the wind that I was able to find him. My speed is much faster than Gu Qingshan's, so if the old guide meets someone and starts to cook noodles, I'll definitely be able to smell the fragrance of the noodles. I can only pray that the first person to meet the old guide today won't be Gu Qingshan. Time slowly passed. The wind blew. The tall, slender woman was still motionless. All of a sudden, an extremely faint smell of broth wafted towards her. The tall, slender woman abruptly opened her eyes, turned into a blurred image, and flew towards a certain direction. She was running against the stream as fast as she could, constantly increasing her speed. Faster. A bit faster. I must eat the old guide's noodle soup before Gu Qingshan does. The tall, slender woman made it all the way to the middle of the stream. Following a bend in the stream, a scene suddenly appeared in front of her. Gu Qingshan was receiving a large bowl of soup from the old guide. The tall, slender woman's heart sank. Damn it, I was one step ahead of her. But it's still not certain who will win in the end. The tall, slender woman quickly crouched down and picked up a few rocks. Huh! She roared and threw the rocks one by one. The rocks flew like cannonballs towards Gu Qingshan, but suddenly stopped in midair. The old guide glared at her. Little girl, what are you doing? Don't disturb others when they taste my noodles. While he was talking, Gu Qingshan had already picked up the bowl and ate the first mouthful of noodles. Delicious, he praised, then proudly glanced at the tall, slender woman. The tall, slender woman felt a chill in her heart, but was quickly filled with anger. No, I have to think of a way. I can't give up so easily. She held back her killing intent and walked next to the old guide. Old sir, I also want to eat a bowl of noodles, she politely said. The old guide's anger instantly disappeared as he hurriedly replied, Ah, that's fine. Wait a bit. A few moments later, a bowl of steaming hot noodles was ready. The tall, slender woman glanced at Gu Qingshan. He's only halfway through. If I finish before him, I'll be able to eat a bowl of noodles right away. The old guide only makes a limited amount of noodles every day, so as long as I eat more than Gu Qingshan, the old guide won't protect me anymore. With that in mind, the tall, slender woman picked up a pair of chopsticks and started wolfing down the noodles. Gu Qingshan also glanced at her. Tisich, eating so fast. Be careful not to choke, he advised her. The tall, slender woman glared at him as her chopsticks quickly moved through the bowl of noodles. She finished it. She drank all the soup in the bowl. She held the bowl with both hands and offered it to the old guide, thanking him. The food is delicious. Please give me another bowl. Thank you very much. Yes, if you like it. I'll cook you another bowl of noodles, the old guide happily said. The old guide began to cook the noodles again. Taking this chance, the tall, slender woman looked at Gu Qingshan. Their eyes met. I was wrong about what I said yesterday. I apologize, Gu Qingshan sincerely said. The tall, slender woman turned around and ignored him. Gu Qingshan scratched his head and glanced at the old guide. Since I'm still angry, how about I ask a question first? Seeing Gu Qingshan's gaze, the old guide cleared his throat and asked the tall, slender woman, Why do you insist on obtaining the twin swords heaven and earth? Mystic secret skill. See you again. Activate. The tall, slender woman fell into a dazed state, as if she had fallen into an illusion. Her expression was full of reminiscence as she replied, I wanted to chase after those who betrayed us and escaped, as well as take a look at what was behind a reality gate. Unfortunately, the reality gate was isolated by destructive power. Even abyssal monsters with eternal life would completely die as soon as they approach the reality gate. There is a saying in the abyss that the abyssal monsters who completely died were corrupted by another type of fate. That's why they died. I don't understand such a strange saying, but many monsters with terrifying strength have confirmed this saying. Within the abyss, there's only a single weapon that can resist the corruption of fate, which is the sword that betrays fate, the weapon of demon suppression at the bottom of the endless abyss, the protector of destruction, the twin swords heaven and earth. Chapter 9:67. As soon as she said that, the tall, slender woman paused. As the effects of "see you once more" disappeared, the tall, slender woman's confused expression disappeared and regained her vigilance and cautiousness. Gu Qingshan also retracted her contemplative expression and silently muttered in her mind, This woman has guts. Because she was abandoned by humanity's upper echelons once, after she turned into an abyssal monster, she wanted to steal the twin swords heaven and earth and fearlessly slaughter her way to the other side of the reality gate to take revenge on those who betrayed her. Other than that, she also did the same after failing to steal the twin sword from me. Because she was cut into shreds and scattered among the countless phantom images, as soon as she revived, She received the news from somewhere and hurried outside the Earth world to wait for my return. From the age of old until now, several 10,000 years had passed, and as soon as I left the Earth world, I ran into her. Obviously, she was waiting outside the Earth world. While Magic Dragon and the Soul Shrieker weren't that persistent, both of them were busy with their own matters. This really is. I can't afford to offend her. This woman is undying. Even if I kill her here, there's no telling when she'll revive. With her personality, she'll definitely return to the 900 million world layers to cause trouble for me. If at that time, while I'm planning to save Lady Black Sea and the other lords, she suddenly appears, who knows how I'll be able to deal with her at that time. I really can't afford to offend her. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan's attitude became a bit more sincere and called out from afar. Hey, I sincerely want to help you. As long as you don't care about what happened in the past, I'm willing to help you. The tall, slender woman still had her back to him and scoffed. I know you're very good at deceiving people, so don't think that I'll fall for it again. Gu Qingshan sighed and signaled the old guide with her eyes. When the old guide saw this, he scooped a bowl full of noodles that had just been cooked. He held it up and said, All right, young man, here are your noodles. Ah, thank you, old sir. Gu Qingshan received the bowl of noodles. The tall woman suddenly turned around and asked, Old mister, I was the one who asked for another bowl. Why did you give it to him? The old guide smiled and said, When this young man came, he said he wanted 2 bowls, so I had to give it to him first. First come, first served, don't you think? The tall, slender woman was stunned. She couldn't help but look at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan spread out her hands and said, I was indeed here first, but to express my sincerity, I can let you have this bowl. The tall, slender woman immediately told the old guide. He gave it to me. The old guide looked at Gu Qingshan, then at the tall, slender woman, helplessly said, Fine, as long as you're willing to eat my noodles. The old guide handed the bowl of soup to the tall, slender woman. The tall, slender woman immediately began eating. She looked at Gu Qingshan warily as she ate her noodles. At that moment, the old guide started to cook another bowl of noodles. He said, Since this bowl is for the young lady, the next bowl should be for the young man. The tall, slender woman's heart sank. If that's the case, Gu Qingshan is going to catch up to us again. The old guide pays particular attention to first come, first served. Today, since Gu Qingshan came to find him first, every time he made a bowl of noodles, he would definitely give it to Gu Qingshan first. The tall, slender woman's eyes moved a bit, then finally spoke to Gu Qingshan. If you really want to express your sincerity, then let me have a next bowl as well. Hearing that, Gu Qingshan appeared troubled. Just as the tall, slender woman was about to mock her a bit, Gu Qingshan hesitantly said, If I give it to you, then the old guide will help you kill me. The tall, slender woman didn't give him a chance to find excuses and quickly said, That's why this is a test for you. Whether you really want to help me, or are you just saying that? Now is the time to see. Gu Qingshan anxiously thought for a while, then finally sighed. Fine, I'll give you the next bowl as well. The tall, slender woman appeared a bit surprised. Did he really give up the next bowl of noodles? If that's the case, I and the old guide would be able to take his life in a matter of minutes. He's even willing to put his life on the line. Could it be that he really wants to help me? At this point, the tall, slender woman felt a strange sensation in her heart. We're clearly enemies, but he seems to want to make peace and even help me. The tall, slender woman lowered her head and continued to eat the noodles with uncertainty in her mind. She finished the entire bowl of noodles. Seeing that, the old guide took the chance to ask, What's your weakness? Mystical skill. See you once again activated. The tall, slender woman appeared confused and couldn't help but answer, I fear nothing in battle, and I can quickly awaken after death. Only when the ring of vow on my left index finger is my abilities temporarily sealed. This is my only weakness. Gu Qingshan and the old guide exchanged surprised glances. Such a strange and secretive weakness. If she didn't say it herself, no one would have been able to find out. After saying so, the blurry expression on the tall, slender woman's face slowly disappeared without a trace. She had retreated from the influence of the mystical skill. Gu Qingshan and the old guide both regained their calm expressions and returned to their previous state. The tall, slender woman didn't seem to notice that she had said anything. She brought the bowl of noodles to the old guide and thanked him. "Thank you for your food. It was extremely delicious. Please give me the next bowl of noodles as well." "You can still eat?" the old guide asked in surprise. The tall, slender woman smiled. "A bowl of noodles isn't that much, but I like it a lot. And it's been a long time since I've eaten such delicious food." The old guide looked at her, then at Gu Qing Shan, and asked with uncertainty, "Young man, the next bowl of noodles was originally yours. Are you really going to give it to this young lady?" Gu Qing Shan waved her hand dismissively. "I'll give it to her. I need to show her my sincerity." "All right, that's a matter between you youngsters. I won't interfere," the old guide replied. After saying so, the old guide began to cook the noodles. The tall, slender woman cautiously stared at Gu Qing Shan and asked, "What exactly are you planning? I've even given my own noodles to you. Can't you trust me just this once?" Gu Qing Shan sighed. The tall, slender woman crossed her arms and didn't answer. It wasn't until the old guide finished cooking the noodles and gave them to her that her expression slowly changed. This time, the tall, slender woman wasn't in a hurry and simply ate the noodles slowly. Halfway through, she suddenly looked up. "Gu Qing Shan, I didn't think you'd be able to do this. Since I've already eaten the noodles," the old guide wouldn't help Gu Qing Shan anymore. "I'm also stronger than Gu Qing Shan, so I can fight for a long time." While Gu Qing Shan has become a normal person, his stamina wouldn't be as good as mine in a prolonged battle. "As long as I'm willing, I can kill him today." Gu Qing Shan nodded. "Of course, you're so powerful, and you've helped me in the age of old. I really can't think of a reason to deceive you." "Then give me the twin swords Heaven and Earth," the tall, slender woman said. "The spirit of the twin swords Heaven and Earth have already recognized a master. You won't be able to use them even if you take them," Gu Qing Shan replied. This was the truth. Once a weapon has recognized a master, no one else would be able to use it, unless the weapon spirit was erased. But that would also greatly damage the weapon, making it unable to exert its full power. The tall, slender woman asked in irritation, "But you're so weak. How are you going to help me?" Gu Qing Shan patiently replied, "We can slowly plan this out, as long as you no longer view me as an enemy. I'm naturally willing to listen to your orders." The tall, slender woman tilted her head and looked at him. A while later, "Who would have thought? But you seem to be quite sincere this time," she commented. Her attitude has finally softened. Gu Qing Shan sighed. "You simply don't understand me very well. After getting to know me more, you'll find that I've always been sincere." The tall, slender woman scoffed with a complicated expression on her face, but didn't say anything else. The old guide lowered his head on one side, trying his best to control his expression. The tall, slender woman's third bowl of noodles was also about to be finished. This really is. Not only did he successfully trick her into falling for 3 mystic rank skills, he even made her believe that he was sincere in helping her. Gongzi is truly a swindler among swindlers. Please remember this book's original domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 968. Cat's Face. Due to Gu Qing Shan's abandonment, the tall, slender woman slowly finished her third bowl of noodles. "Thank you for your hospitality. The noodles were very delicious." She quickly washed the bowl of noodles in the stream, held it with both hands, and returned it to the old guide. Then she was tricked again. The old guide followed the question that he and Gu Qing Shan discussed beforehand and asked, "What are the Soul Shrieker and the Abyssal Magic Dragon doing right now?" The tall, slender woman appeared nostalgic and slowly answered, "Something happened to the Soul Shrieker's main body, so its avatars also fell into madness. As for the Magic Dragon, he is currently attempting to take over the entire Strife Zones, mobilizing all living beings to help him find the 3 coins, as well as collect all treasures." A few moments later, the tall, slender woman returned to normal. "Are you really willing to help me?" she asked Gu Qing Shan. Gu Qing Shan nodded. The tall, slender woman pondered. "You're a cultivator, so what you fear the most is a vow to Heaven and Earth. If you're truly willing to follow my orders, then make a vow to Heaven and Earth." Gu Qing Shan shook his head. "I can help you, but a vow to heaven and earth is related to one's Tao heart. I can't make a vow that I can guarantee, because I'm afraid that I won't be able to keep it. Then it seems everything you said was a lie, the tall, slender woman commented. Gu Qing continued, because you've indeed helped me obtain the Heaven Sword. I can vow that as long as it's within my capabilities, I'm willing to help you with everything I have without going back on this vow. Otherwise, my strength will never improve again. Boom. A loud crack of thunder resounded in the clear sky. The law of heaven and earth had responded to Gu Qingshan's vow. The tall, slender woman looked at him with eyes full of disbelief. She silently thought for a while, then suddenly began to twist her body. Her originally voluptuous body gave off a different kind of allure as she twisted her body. But Gu Qingshan's expression became solemn, because as she twisted her body, the air around her began to vibrate intensely. Open, the woman shouted in a clear voice. Crack, crack, crack. Ho! After the sound of vibrations, an intense gust of wind erupted from her body and swept across her surroundings. The tall woman lightly punched out. Boom! Hundreds of meters away, a large tree was smashed in half. It was thrown high into the air and then fell down heavily, blocking the entire stream. The stream gradually rose. Gu Qingshan stared blankly at this scene. After a long time, she said, truly amazing. The other party did not rely on supernatural powers, but merely punched through the air to achieve such a feat. This was pure physical strength that had been accumulated for a long time. Did you know, Gu Qingshan? Although I don't know what you did, I can actually sense that you're plotting something against me, because even though I've lost all of my abilities, I'm best at weaving fate, so my heart still possesses intuition, the tall woman said slowly. The old guide pursed his lips and quickly glanced at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan shook her head in the direction of the two, hinting to the old guide not to act rashly, and also hinting that she did not agree with the tall woman's words. He casually spoke. I've already sworn a vow to heaven and earth. Do you still not believe me? The tall woman suddenly smiled and replied, That's right. It was because I could sense your sincerity that I didn't care about all of your preparations and methods. Only asking you one thing. Do you dare to swear a vow to heaven and earth? If you didn't, I would have killed you on the spot. Gu Qingshan, your sincerity saved your life. Her words were powerful and resonating, spreading far and wide amidst the sound of flowing water, carrying great confidence and power. Gu Qingshan bitterly smiled and replied, Truly the style of a martial arts expert. When I fought you for the first time yesterday, I should have known that you were this type of person. What kind of person do you think I am? The tall woman asked with interest. Martial artists are all like this. No matter how many schemes others have, they only care about taking the head of an army of 10,000-inch. Gu Qingshan replied, I can finally understand you a bit now, indeed, because she was abandoned by the upper echelons of humanity that she trusted and relied on, causing the deaths of all her comrades, even if she had turned into a monster. Even if the people who made the decision had already entered the reality gate, she still had to pursue them to complete her revenge. This was a true martial artist. Gu Qingshan felt a bit more approval and spoke in a low voice. I need to finish a few things first, then I can help you with everything I have. You have a lot of conditions, but I won't allow it. The tall woman reached out her slender white hand and lightly twisted it. The bones in her hand let out a crisp sound that sounded like the clashing of steel. You have to help me finish my business. This way, the grudge between us will be written off. Only then will you be able to do your own thing. Gu Qingshan, you need to understand, the old guide won't help you right now, and I can kill you at any time. If it weren't for the fact that you're sincerely helping me, I wouldn't have wasted so much time with you. That's why you have no choice, the tall woman declared with an unquestionable tone. She thought for a bit, then softened her tone. Perhaps after I finish my revenge, I might return to help you. At that time, your business would be very simple for me. Gu Qingshan sighed and was about to explain further when her expression changed. Waves of pain were spreading throughout her body. An uncontrollable power was slowly corroding her limbs and bones. Gu Qingshan immediately remembered. When she returned to this world from the elemental fairy world, due to the fact that there were too many things on her mind, there was a certain thought that she couldn't remember. And now, Gu Qingshan finally understood what that thought represented. Today is the day of a dance. I have to dance right now, otherwise, the power of the magic dragon will spread throughout my body. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the war god UI. Frowny face, please immediately perform the living being sacrificial dance. First stage. Otherwise, once the power of the magic dragon spreads, your body will be irreversibly corroded. The tall woman noticed the change in his expression and coldly asked, "What? Are you regretting it?" Gu Qingshan hurriedly replied, "That's not it. I have something that I have to do right now. Listen, every month there will be a certain moment where I feel extremely uncomfortable." At this point, he couldn't help but pause. That seems to be a bit inappropriate. Sure enough, there was complete silence all around. Both the old guide and the tall, slender woman had strange expressions on their faces. The old guide seemed to be on the verge of collapse, wanting to say something but hesitating. The tall, slender woman seemed to be shocked and instinctively glanced at his chest. Gu Qingshan understood and hurriedly waved his hand. "It's not what you think. I just have to dance a little bit. While I'm dancing, don't make a sound and run as far away as you can. Otherwise, I might hurt you." After hurriedly saying that, Gu Qingshan began to perform the first stage of the living being sacrificial dance. There was no time to avoid her, and there was no time to be embarrassed or not. At a time like this, the most important thing was to suppress the power of the magic dragon. He simply stood in the middle of the stream, shaking his shoulders, waving his hands, and stomping his feet, occasionally even doing shameful movements like shaking his butt. At first, the tall, slender woman even took a defensive stance, cautiously preparing to defend herself. But as time passed, at some unknown point, she silently stood up straight again. "Is there something wrong with your head?" After watching for a while, she couldn't help but ask. Gu Qingshan took the chance to turn around to tell her with a serious expression, "Don't make a sound. A lot of unimaginable things are about to happen. I don't want you to misunderstand that I'm trying to do something against you. This dance was an extremely awkward thing to talk about, even in the age of old." Gu Qingshan himself had instinctively avoided thinking about it. That was why the Fate Weaver didn't know about this at all. At this point, Gu Qingshan's warning to the tall, slender woman with such a tone was enough for the tall, slender woman to take it seriously. However, as soon as Gu Qingshan said that, he immediately performed a shameful dance movement filled with provocation. This movement was truly... The tall, slender woman raised her eyebrows. The old guide was watching from afar, so she couldn't help but turn her head away, but her inner sight was still focused on Gu Qingshan. The tall, slender woman crossed her arms and stared at Gu Qingshan as he repeated that movement, feeling a bit angry. "Your movements don't match your words at all, so what exactly is going on with you?" Gu Qingshan didn't have time to say anything else. He could only focus on jumping down. Only then would he be able to suppress the power of the magic dragon. Just now, he felt helpless, but since the dance had reached this point, what else could he do? After watching him dance for a while, the tall, slender woman couldn't help but feel a bit impatient. What the hell is going on? Is this man here to make fun of me? The tall, slender woman couldn't help but say, "Hey, can you stop this ridiculous dance already?" As soon as she said that, she suddenly felt the world spinning around her as her vision was filled with water and rocks. Sha sha sha, sha sha sha. Several thin threads appeared from the void of space, then quickly disappeared. A dry and strange voice resounded. "The great dance cannot be tarnished. As a spider, dying to a thread. This is your fate." The tall, slender woman's body was sliced into dozens of pieces that scattered in the water, then was washed away by the current. Cat flutter. Chapter 969. 1, 2, 3. Stomp your feet. 4, 5, 6. Wave your hands. 7, 8, 9. Shake your cheeks. Shake your shoulders. Gu Qingshan counted to the beat, followed the rhythm, and meticulously danced. Lines of glowing text appeared on the war god UI 1. After another frowny face, the power of the magic dragon is currently being suppressed. You've received the favor of the occultism mystical power. Your body's strength has slightly increased. Your dance has received the praise of a mystical entity. You've developed a slight affinity with mystic-type abilities. Your body's coordination has improved. Gu Shan was sweating profusely as he danced. It couldn't be helped. Even if he was a 3,000 worlds realm expert, performing this dance would still be extremely tiring. Both his body and soul would experience an arduous process in front of the living being sacrificial dance. A few dozen minutes later, he finally finished this dance. Shanu handed him a cup of spring water and asked, "Gongzi, what do we do now?" Gu Shan breathed heavily and drank all the water in one gulp. "It's my fault this time. I forgot the date of the dance. That's why this happened," he helplessly said. "Since she's already dead, how about we just leave?" Shanu suggested. "No. According to what she said, she's already been betrayed once, so it's very rare for her to trust me this time," Gu Shan replied. Shanu was troubled, but her body has already been washed away by the stream. "Gongzi, even if we spend a lot of time to put her back together, there's no telling when she'll be able to revive." Gu Shan shook his head and replied, "If we leave right now, she might not trust anyone again. Not to mention, if one day she revives and rushes to the 900 million world layers to cause trouble for me, that would be troublesome. That's why we really need to bring her back and make things clear. Trust me, for a martial artist like her, she may seem like she doesn't care about many things, but she's actually a very stubborn person." Shanu sighed and replied, "Then we'll have to slowly search for her body, wait for her to revive, try to convince her that Gongzi didn't kill her on purpose, and finally convince her not to force Gongzi to go to the reality gate, because Gongzi has his own matters to attend to." "It sounds a little complicated and difficult," Gu Shan said thoughtfully. "Very difficult. She's an abyssal monster," Gongzi, Shanu reminded him. Gu Shan thought for a while, then simply closed her eyes and carefully sensed. The manifestation of the Earth Saint Pillar's laws was currently hidden within his body, ready to listen to his summons at any time. Right now, Gu Shan needed a bit of help to complete this extremely difficult task. Following his thoughts, a beam of gold and silver intersecting light was produced from within his body and leaped into his palm, forming a pattern of light and shadow. At the same time, lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. "Frowny face master of the Earth Saint Pillar. Please select the power you wish to activate." Powers to choose from: True Luck, Absolute Prohibition, Protection. Gu Shan skimmed through them and silently muttered in his mind. Activate True Luck. New lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. "Frowny face, you've chosen True Luck. This ability has been activated. Lasts for 12 hours. After this ability ends, you must wait 30 days before you can use the power of the Earth Saint Pillar again." All the glowing text disappeared. Everything returned to normal. Looking at the coin of the Earth projection, Gu Shan suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. This was the miraculous feeling of returning to the Earth world and being blessed by the Earth Creator. "Let's go," he said. "Gongzi, where are we going?" "To retrieve her body." "That's a huge undertaking. Unfortunately, there's only the two of us right now." "All right, let's not think about it. We'll just slowly retrieve it." Gu Shan consoled Shanu, then suddenly went silent. He and Shanu both turned toward a certain direction. Something seemed to be moving at the bank of the stream. Following that thing also seemed to have noticed them. "Hey, so you were also here?" the other party loudly called out. So it was the wooden doll. Gu Shan walked over, crouched down in front of the wooden doll, and asked in confusion, "Why are you here?" The wooden doll took off its hat to greet him and explained, "There's a very rare waterflower gem in this stream, so I came here to try my luck and see if I can find a waterflower gem." Gu Shan asked with interest. "That's right. It's a kind of milky white rock with natural water patterns on it, like a blooming flower on top of the rock, so it's called the waterflower gem," the wooden doll explained. It then sighed. "I'm only missing this gem to be able to participate in the gem exhibition. Unfortunately, this waterflower gem is one of the rarest gems to find on the Gemini star. It specializes in hiding itself underwater and only appears once every 1,000 years." Gu Shan suddenly felt something pressing down on his foot. He picked up a rock from the water, glanced at it, then put it in front of the wooden doll. "The water flower gem you were talking about, isn't it very similar to this rock?" he asked. "Ah, that's right, it's this type of rock." The wooden doll glanced at it briefly and nodded. "Wait a minute." The wooden doll opened its eyes wide and excitedly exclaimed, "Oh my God, that's the water flower gem." It hopped around the gem, but couldn't bring itself to touch it. Gu Shan said, "Take it. I don't have any use for it anyways." He pushed the rock towards the wooden doll. The wooden doll was so excited that its face flushed red and asked, "Can I really take it?" "Take it." Gu Shan smiled and told it. The wooden doll hesitated for a bit, then seemed to have made a decision and said, "I can't take such a precious thing for free. I have to repay you." It swung its short staff a few times. "I heard what you just said." The wooden doll raised its thumb. "You're a good person. I'll help you find that woman's body." While it was talking, something was moving backward from the lower reaches of stream. Gu Shan looked carefully, only to see that it was a corpse that had been cut into several dozen pieces. The tall, slender woman's body. The wooden doll swung its short staff again. The several dozen pieces of the corpse were suddenly pushed to the shore by the rising water. "There's a pixie living in this stream. She's my good friend, so I asked her for a favor," the wooden doll said as if trying to show off. "But neither she nor I are very good at assembling corpses, so you'll have to rely on yourself from now on." "That's more than enough. Thank you very much," Gu Shan sincerely said. Seeing him like that, the wooden doll nodded. "I'll be going first. You know how to find me. I need to quickly go back and count my stones. See you later, HM." "See you later." The wooden doll swung its short staff and disappeared from the void of space. Gu Shan and Shanu exchanged glances. "That's a good start. All we need to do now is assemble the corpse," Gu Shan said. "All right, let's go assemble her body," Shanu said. The two of them went back to the shore and began to work. "Shanu, is this how you assemble it?" "I think so. The part is correct, but you need to put your chest up." "Gongzi, give me your right hand." "Wait a minute. That's your right leg. You put the wrong way up." "I'm sorry. It's too hard to assemble." Gu Shan was a bit confused. "My true luck can last for 12 hours, so why do I keep making mistakes when assembling corpses? I'm a great cultivator, as well as a top-notch chef. Assembling corpses is as easy as pie. Why does luck keep stopping me?" At this point, Shanu cut in. It's fine. Gongzi, you're too clumsy, and this woman's body isn't very suitable for you to assemble. Let me do it." Gu Shan was a bit surprised, then understood. "He put the corpse down?" "That's right, Shanu. Keep your original appearance and prove that I wasn't the one who assembled her body." Shanu also nodded. "All right, that's right. Otherwise, if she finds out that you're moving her body, she'll definitely get angry and fight again." Gu Shan smiled bitterly. "If we fight here, I can still hold on. But if she becomes enraged and acts like she did when she was searching for the bygone era humans, chasing me for several 10,000 years after, leaving the Gemini star, I won't be able to take it." Chapter 970. Complete Darkness. Within the silence, a female voice suddenly resounded. "Gongzi, if we keep waiting like this, who knows how long we'll have to wait for her to wake up," followed by a familiar male voice. "It's fine, we just have to wait until she wakes up and tell her that everything was a misunderstanding." The female voice spoke. "All right. Gongzi, aren't you going to find the old guide right now?" "Yes, we'll have to leave this Gemini star sooner or later anyway. You can ask around for the way." "All right, then take care of her. I'll go find the old guide." And the voice stopped here. A few moments later, Gu Shan's voice stopped. There was only the crackling of the burning branches, occasionally the sound of a woman humming a song. The tall, slender woman slowly opened her eyes. It was still deep into the night. A beautiful woman with a cold expression sat next to a small campfire. "I remember now. She's Gu Shan's sword spirit, Shanu." Gu Shan went to find the old guide to ask for the way to leave, so his sword spirit was staying here to watch over her. At this point, Shanu noticed something and turned to look at them. Their eyes met. The tall, slender woman calmly asked, "How long have I been dead for?" "You've been dead for about 10 hours. To be able to revive so quickly, how unimaginable." Shanu stood up and walked next to the tall, slender woman. She was a bit nervous. Gongzi's true luck only has a few dozen minutes left. I'm not sure if I'll be able to earn this monster's trust in time. The tall, slender woman pondered. That can't be right. I've never revived this early before. What kind of power did you use? Shanu truthfully answered. We found a gem and gave it to a puppet. The puppet invited a pixie living in this stream to save you. What gem? The water flower gem. I know that kind of gem. Even a pixie would have a hard time finding that kind of gem. No wonder the tall, slender woman slowly stood up and moved her body. She had an almost perfect body, which was wrapped in a feather dress that was as soft as silk. I remember that I was cut into many pieces. Fairies hate corpses the most, so in the end, it was Gu Qing who pieced me back together. She asked indifferently. No, I was the one who helped you put this body together, and the clothes you're wearing are also mine. Unfortunately, you're taller than me, so they don't really fit. Shanu evaluated him. The tall, slender woman closed her eyes and thought. When he gradually regained his senses, he did feel a pair of slender and nimble hands helping him assemble his body. She opened her eyes and looked at Shanu's hand. Yes, it was this pair of hands. It seemed that her body had indeed never been touched by a man before. The tall woman's expression cleared up a bit, and she asked, How did I die? Shanu then told him about the magic dragon's blood and the living being sacrificial dance. Anyway, young master said there was no need to hide it from her. The tall, slender woman silently listened, but didn't erupt in anger like Shanu expected. She only revealed a look of reminiscence and muttered to herself. So it's a trick left behind by the old man. So what if you're the strongest? You're kind on the outside, but soft on the inside, but in the end, you're still... Her voice slowly became lower as a hint of sorrow flashed through her eyes. At this point, a figure was quickly approaching from downstream. Gu Qing appeared. He was surprised. You revived so quickly? I killed her once, so I don't know what she's thinking right now. Gu Qing looked at him, waiting for his reaction. At the same time, a timer was quickly moving on his retina. Remaining true luck, 7 minutes 9 seconds, 7 minutes. These 7 minutes will decide whether I'm a friend or foe of the abyssal fate weaver. I really don't want to have another enemy like this. Gu Qing sighed emotionally. After fighting against him, he was convinced by the other party's level of martial arts. Truly convinced. Because such a level of martial arts can only be achieved by a combatant with a pure and righteous heart. There were countless worlds, and there were some powerful beings that could easily surpass such a powerful martial arts expert. But being powerful didn't necessarily mean having a high level of martial arts. For example, the Soul Shrieker, no matter how powerful it was, it couldn't comprehend the spirit and willpower of this level of martial arts. Hearing Gu Qing's words, the tall, slender woman casually replied, There's a strange fragrance on my body. It must be a top-level healing technique performed by the pixie. That's why I recovered so quickly. What a nice pixie, Gu Qing praised. Fortunately, the other party's attention was focused on the pixie's technique and didn't mention the dance that killed people before. This prevented both sides from directly discussing this issue. The tall, slender woman coldly smirked. The matters of the pixie are always strange. It's not as simple as you think it is. She raised one of her long, slender hands to show it to the other party. What is it? Gu Qing didn't understand. The tall, slender woman lowered her head. The pixie likes to collect things with unique powers, so she purposely used a top-level healing technique on me to take away my ring as payment for using that technique. Gu Qing was surprised. He suddenly recalled how important that ring was to the tall, slender woman. After she was struck by, See you once again, Shanu asked her about her weakness. That ring was her weakness. Without the ring of vow, the tall, slender woman would temporarily lose the majority of her powers. The situation seems to have become quite troublesome, because according to the legends of the 900 million world layers, once something is taken away by a pixie, it's basically impossible to get it back. Gu Qing observed the other party's expression, only to see that the tall, slender woman didn't seem panicked or anxious at all. Instead, she seemed a bit lonely. Gu Qing asked, Is the ring important? I heard that it's not easy to get back what the pixie took away, the tall, slender woman casually replied. It's fine because I didn't voluntarily give up the ring of vow. The abyss won't punish me. The will of the abyss will return this soul artifact to me sooner or later. The will of the abyss? Gu Shan felt a bit shocked, but still sighed in relief. That's good to hear at this point. The tall, slender woman looked at him and spoke with a serious expression. We need to leave now, why? Once I lose the blessing of the abyss, the magic dragon will definitely notice. In truth, he already knew that I was here. Gu Shan continued her words. The magic dragon didn't come before probably because he was afraid of your strength, but now that you've lost the power of the abyss, he will definitely come to kill both of us to steal the twin swords heaven and earth, the tall, slender woman replied. That's right, I've temporarily lost the power of the abyss, leaving only my martial arts cultivation, so I can't go to the reality gate right now. There's no time to lose. I've obtained a way to leave from the old guide. We need to leave right now, Gu Shan said. The tall, slender woman didn't answer. She stayed silent for a bit, seemingly making her choice. Gu Shan had already sighed in relief, because the other party's attitude had improved a lot compared to before, so she probably won't specifically target me anymore. He glanced at the war god UI. True Luck had 30 seconds left. Gu Shan thought for a bit, then spoke apologetically. I hope you can forgive me for using the sacrificial dance to kill you, because I couldn't control that dance. The tall, slender woman originally wanted to say something, but as soon as she heard Gu Shan's words, she went silent. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. 7 seconds. 5 seconds. The tall, slender woman spoke up. Since you've received the old man's teachings, you could be considered as half of his disciple. Fine, I'll go with you for now. When that ring returns to me, I'll take you to the reality gate, she suddenly declared with a resolute tone. No matter what, I will definitely pass through the reality gate and complete my revenge. True Luck ended. Roar! A resounding roar resounded from above. A deep voice resounded from beyond the sky. Fate Weaver, have you been abandoned by the abyss? Aha! The tall, slender woman scowled. We need to leave right now. Although we can't use supernatural powers on the Gemini star, the strongest part of the magic dragon is his body, so he has the absolute advantage against us here. Gu Shan felt tense and immediately said, Let's go. The three of them turned into blurred figures and disappeared from the bank of the stream. At another location, a petite girl in a miniskirt was carefully observing the ring in front of her. The shiny silver ring was inlaid with a glowing gem. This ring was about the same size as the girl in the miniskirt, occasionally giving off invisible fluctuations that pushed the girl several meters away. Ah, I like mysterious things like this. I've already healed her wounds anyways. Taking a tiny ring from her is completely in line with the pixie laws. While saying so, the girl took out a short stick and pointed it at the ring from afar. Let me see who you are. She chanted an incantation. Mystery of wondrous artifacts appear. A green glow appeared from the short stick and flew into the ring. The ring hovered in the air. Gradually, voices could be heard from the ring. The first was a deep male voice. Lin, I had to search through many space-time skeletons in order to find the materials to make this ring. I'll give it to you now, a bell-like giggle came. A female voice spoke. Why are you working so hard? Of course it's for our love. The pixie originally had a small notebook ready to record, but couldn't help but shout. That's too nauseating. Skip this part. She swung the short stick in her hand. The two voices disappeared. A few moments later, the next voice came from the ring. The male voice hurriedly spoke. Lin, you had to help me this time. How do you want me to help you? The female voice asked. The space-time mystery nest isn't suitable for humans to live in at all. My political enemies have suffered heavy losses this time, so humanity should go to the outer layer of the eternal abyss. That place is infinitely large, more than enough for humans to establish a hidden base there. This is my political opinion, something that I've always advocated for, but the biggest problem is that without a powerful martial artist to lead them, no one dares to go there, the male voice replied. The female voice hesitantly spoke. The outer layer of the eternal abyss, the male voice resolutely spoke. This is an operation that will determine whether or not I can enter the decision-making circle. Success or failure would depend on this. Lin, we can only rely on you right now. Use your influence to lead a group to explore that place, the female voice replied. I can go for you, but my friends, the male voice cut her off and quickly said, have them accompany you, as long as you can prove that humanity can safely survive in the abyss for 3 days. Only 3 days. Then you can return, he continued. Lin, once I enter the decision-making circle, our lives will be much better. At that time, I'll definitely marry you. I beg you to help me this once. The female voice sounded a bit wronged. I don't care even if I die for you, but I don't want to beg my friends to do such a dangerous thing, the male voice replied. As long as you agree, they will agree. They already know that I've proposed to you, so they're willing to do this. What? You've already told them? The female voice exclaimed in shock. The male voice begged. This is a very simple operation. They're all willing to go with you once. This will help me reach a higher position. The female voice sighed helplessly and said, truthfully, you people who haven't been to the front lines really don't know how unpredictable the abyss is. I want you to swear to me right now. As soon as anything happens in the eternal abyss, you must warp us back as soon as possible, the male voice chuckled. Don't worry, of course, no matter how great the abyss changes, I will guarantee your safety first. Very well, I'll bring everyone with me. The female voice finally compromised. Chapter 971. Night. In the stream, 3 figures were rushing forward. The doll was sitting on Gu Qingshan's shoulder, covering its head with its hand as it looked up at the sky. There's a meteor falling from the sky. It loudly called out. Everyone turned to look, only to see a dim streak of light streaking across the sky. All of a sudden, the ground trembled. The ground gave off a loud and heavy groan. Gu Qingshan tried his best to stabilize himself and asked, Magic Dragon is here? The tall, slender woman replied. That's right, it fell not too far away from where we are, so it'll probably catch up very soon. Can we outrun it? We can't. Both its power and speed are at their peak. It'll catch up to us very soon. Seems like we have no choice but to face it head-on, Gu Qingshan scowled. That won't do either. Its body is an ultimate weapon. I won't be able to win against it without using the power of the abyss. And you... The tall, slender woman glanced at him and sighed. The tall, slender woman reached her hand into her long black hair and lightly pulled it. A strand of hair was pulled out. She tied the strand of hair around her waist, then pulled the other end of the strand towards Gu Qingshan. You carry the power of Magic Dragon's blood. As soon as it discovers you, it'll devour you. The tall, slender woman tied the strand of hair around Gu Qingshan's wrist and continued. My hair has the ability to stretch and contract. This isn't a supernatural power, but a property of my body itself. And then what? Gu Qingshan asked. The tall, slender woman replied. You go first, I'll stop him. Once you reach the warp point, pull this strand of hair as hard as you can. The hair's contract and contract property will be activated. It'll quickly bring me to where you are. Gu Qingshan glanced at her. Aren't you afraid that I'll lose this strand of hair in the end? The tall, slender woman coldly replied. No matter what, you have the twin swords heaven and earth. I can't let Magic Dragon obtain them. Gu Qingshan went silent briefly, then turned to leave. He brought Shanu and the doll along as fast as he could towards the upper end of the stream. The tall, slender woman stood still, closed her eyes, and slowly adjusted her breathing. In the darkness of the night, her aura gradually disappeared, and her entire person seemed to have become one with the world. After a while, a mocking voice resounded. Tisk, TSK, TSK, how unexpected. You've clearly been betrayed by the humans, yet you're still staying behind to defend against me. The legendary martial empress would actually fall for the humans' tricks again and again. I'm really curious as to how your brain is constructed. In the darkness of the night, a dark figure gradually appeared. Magic Dragon. The pair of long black horns on his head had already turned into a gray color, twisted and drooped beside his ears. His figure was even more burly, and with every movement he made, a gray mist would emerge from his body. The tall, slender woman slightly bent her body and assumed a defensive stance. "There's no need to mention the past," she said in a low voice. Magic Dragon looked at her strangely, then spoke in a disappointed tone. "I really don't understand. Both you and I have already joined the will of the abyss, so why are you still restrained by your original human identity?" "I can't give you the twin swords, heaven and earth," the tall, slender woman replied. "You're courting death." Magic Dragon abruptly shouted. He turned into a howling gust of wind, charged straight at the tall, slender woman, and threw a punch. The tall, slender woman didn't seem to move at all, but she managed to dodge Magic Dragon's punch. Dong! Her fist shot out like a bow and struck Magic Dragon's body like a thunderbolt. Magic Dragon's body froze from the impact. However, the tall, slender woman borrowed this force to fly backward. Boom! A few hundred meters away, a large boulder suddenly exploded into fragments. This was the aftermath of Magic Dragon's punch. In the blink of an eye, the tall, slender woman avoided her opponent's fatal attack, retaliated, then immediately retreated. Against the ultimate weapon of the bygone-era humanity, being able to react in such a manner with such foresight and skill, she could already be considered a peak existence in the world of martial arts. Magic Dragon stood still, slightly moved his body, and looked at the tall, slender woman a few meters away. "You should know that humans can't stop me with just their physical strength," he slowly said. "Of course I know that. After all, I've participated in the test of your strength," the tall, slender woman replied. "That's why I'm curious. You've already lost all of your powers, leaving only your martial arts realm. So why do you still dare to stand in my way?" Magic Dragon asked. Standing across from him, the tall, slender woman's lips were slowly bleeding. She was only grazed by the wind of his punch, yet she was already wounded. This was a completely unequal exchange of blows. If it weren't for her martial arts expertise, no one else would have been able to survive that strike from Magic Dragon. The tall, slender woman wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said nothing. She turned one of her fists into a palm, the other into a fist, and once again assumed a defensive stance. Magic Dragon scowled as his expression turned grim. "Although she can't win against me, she can still stall me by risking her life. If this continues, that brat with the twin swords, heaven and earth, will be able to escape sooner or later." Magic Dragon shrugged. "I don't want to waste any more time here. How about this? We make a deal." "What kind of deal?" "After I kill that brat, take the twin swords, heaven and earth, I'll personally send you into the reality gate, after which you can seek your revenge. The twin sword, heaven and earth, will belong to me." "That's a good deal. I'm very tempted." "Then it's settled." "No, I refuse." Magic Dragon was stunned, then gritted his teeth. "Are you playing with me?" The tall, slender woman calmly replied. "If it was before, I might have agreed, but only now do I know that after several tens of thousands of years, this old man finally has a successor, and I don't want this successor to die here." Magic Dragon was stunned. The old man's successor, Magic Dragon, had a complicated expression on his face. The tall, slender woman didn't say anything else and simply continued to accumulate the power inside her body. Magic Dragon suddenly laughed maniacally. "Aha! That idiot successor. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been born, and I wouldn't have been trapped in the abyssal jail for so many years, watching over your abyssal form day and night. He deserves to die. His successor also deserves to die. I want to kill that brat more than ever now." Magic Dragon's body slowly grew larger, reaching 4 to 5 meters tall, looking more and more like a legendary demon. The tall, slender woman coldly spoke. "He gave you life, and you want to kill his successor?" Magic Dragon angrily shouted. "No, it wasn't him. It was the Samsara who did all of this. The Six Paths reincarnation is our only hope, but he has sent it out of our world." The tall, slender woman replied. "You should know that the Samsara isn't something that belongs to our world, so we couldn't leave it here. Otherwise, the unknown that originally possessed it would invade our world." Magic Dragon gritted his teeth. The apocalypse was right in front of our eyes, but he gave up on the Samsara, causing me to lose the hope of evolving into my perfect form at the very last moment. He deserves to die. The tall, slender woman sighed and muttered. At the time, We had already understood the most basic method to create the samsara. We began to create our own samsara. This was the ultimate weapon of our world. After it was completed, your problem would also be solved. Bullshit. The power of humanity couldn't even reach that level. We could only make the simplest and most laughable imitations. Magic Dragon refuted. He suddenly became agitated, stared straight at the tall, slender woman, and spoke with an irrepressible tone. Even if everything was as you said, what was the result? The tall, slender woman lowered her head and fell silent. Magic Dragon angrily shouted, "Answer me, what was the result?" The tall, slender woman pursed her lips. A look of pain flashed through her eyes for a brief moment before disappearing. Magic Dragon looked up to the sky and shouted, I was imprisoned by them for over 100 million years, while you fell into the abyss, ignored by everyone. After that old man died, they took that laughable, fake samsara and ran away. Ran away. Magic Dragon's pair of cruel vertical pupils abruptly erupted with two gray flames. He bent down, bent his legs, and lowered his entire body. He placed a finger on the ground to support the weight of his entire body. At this moment, the power on Magic Dragon's body was as deep as the ocean, manifesting into a gray whirlpool that unleashed violent, sharp, howling winds towards the surrounding air. Magic Dragon aimed at the tall, slender woman and stood still. You once took care of me when you were still a human, so I'll give you one last chance. Step aside or die. Magic Dragon spoke in a low voice. The tall, slender woman took a deep breath, retracted her fist and palm, and overlapped them in front of her chest. Her entire body sank as deep as the sea. Absolute, she shouted as a visible surge of white light manifested from her body. The water of the stream, the rocks, the fallen leaves, the air, everything hovered around her, as if they were being captured by some sort of overwhelming power. So this is your final life-risking fist technique? How regretful. How much of the power of the past can the current you exert? Magic Dragon mocked her. Cut the crap. Let's see what you've got, the tall, slender woman replied. If you want to die so badly, then go die. Magic Dragon's figure abruptly disappeared. The tall, slender woman also disappeared. A bolt of lightning exploded above the stream. Boom! A certain slender figure was sent flying like a kite with its string cut. Magic Dragon's frenzied laughter resounded across the sky. So what if you're skilled in martial arts? No matter how many punches you throw, you won't be able to hurt me, and I only need to hit you once. While he was laughing, he abruptly closed his mouth. The figure that was sent flying suddenly flew away at an unimaginable speed, as if someone was pulling on a string at an invisible distance. Chapter 972. Cat throwing itself at me. In the middle of the night, a blurred figure flew across the sky, heading in a certain direction. A few hundred feet away from the figure, Magic Dragon was chasing with all his might. Unfortunately, his speed was still a bit slower than the other party, so he couldn't catch up. The distance between them was still increasing. Damn it, let's see where you're going. Magic Dragon roared furiously. Time quickly passed. Upstream of the stream, Guqin Shan stood on top of the dry well with his arms wide open. A second later, the figure that flew across the sky landed and was caught in his arms. Why haven't you left yet? The tall, slender woman was covered in blood as she asked with a flat tone. Guqin Shan replied, I said I'd wait for you here. The tall, slender woman spat out a mouthful of blood and spoke with a weak voice. Idiot, leave. Saying so, she fell unconscious. Guqin Shan couldn't help but ask, Shanu, what's the situation? Shanu wasn't restricted in this world, so she could use inner sight to observe the world. Immediately, Shanu's anxious voice came. There's no time to explain. Gongzi, run. Guqin Shan immediately understood that it was a matter of life and death. Without stopping for even a second, he jumped into the dry well with the tall, slender woman in his arms, heading straight for the secret room. Inside the secret room, Shanu had already opened the treasure chest. Seeing Guqin Shan coming, she immediately turned back into a sword and rested next to him. Guqin Shan carried the unconscious tall, slender woman into the treasure chest and closed it. "Send us away, then hide," Gu Qing Shan told the doll. The doll nodded. "Don't worry. As soon as you leave, I'll hide at the pixie's place. No one will be able to find them." At this point, the sound of something crashing into the ground could be heard from outside. Magic Dragon had already reached the bottom of the well. At a glance, he saw the broken wall and the secret room inside. A treasure room? No, this strange feeling. Magic Dragon doubtfully stopped. He could sense the power of the Magic Dragon's bloodline, but he didn't sense any presence of a bloodkin. Could it be that brat who stole the twin swords heaven and earth? In the ancient times, during the final battle, the other party used a soul artifact to transform into an immortal giant, so he couldn't sense the other party's true identity. Now a desire to eat rose in his heart. This proved that there were blood descendants nearby. But what was strange was that he didn't smell the scent of a blood descendant. Could it be that this brat had once killed him in a parallel world? Then, what was it that was concealing his aura? Just as he was wondering, the scent of the bloodkin suddenly disappeared. Magic Dragon's expression changed, and he rushed into the secret room. With a wave of his hand, all the chests opened. It was empty. They had already left this place. The Magic Dragon thought for a moment and walked around chests. Finally, he crouched down in front of chest. He reached out his finger and lightly touched the empty box. His fingers were dyed red. The Magic Dragon licked his finger and whispered, "That's right, this is her blood." They were transported away from this box. The Magic Dragon went into the box. Compared to his 5-meter-tall body, this box was a bit small, so he couldn't squeeze himself in even after trying for a long time. The Magic Dragon stopped and fell into thought. This box had a unique teleportation ability. Normally, spatial items used to teleport between worlds were all very precious, so they couldn't possibly be destroyed by him. In the end, the Magic Dragon had no choice but to retract all of his power, shrink his body to around 3 meters tall, and even curl up a bit before he could fully enter the box. "All right, now, I'm going to check if that guy is my food or not." Demon Dragon displayed a ferocious grin and closed the lid of the box. The secret room returned to silence. A few moments later, an earth-shattering roar resounded from inside the box. "What's going on? Why can't I teleport away?" The space vortex. The winds of primal chaos continued to blow without stopping. Gu Qing Shan was carrying the tall, slender woman, enveloped by some sort of power, flying towards a certain direction. "Strange. We should have arrived already," he muttered. According to the teleportation method on the star chart, leaving the Gemini star from inside the box would send me to the world of the elemental fairies. Last time, I did enter the world of the elemental fairies, but something seemed to have gone wrong this time. All of a sudden, from the boundless void of space in front of him, a blinding nebula was flying towards him at an extremely fast speed. The boundless sea of stars gathered in front of him to form a face that connected heaven and earth. This was the appearance of the Fairy of Time. She smiled at Gu Qing Shan and spoke. "Master of the Earth Saint Pillar, you've signed a secret covenant with me, so your identity will be kept secret by me, so you cannot bring this abyssal creature in my world, as that would be exposed and destroy our covenant. You would also be noticed by many powerful unknown entities." Gu Qing Shan looked down at the tall, slender woman in his arms. She was still unconscious. Her face was pale, and there were still traces of blood at the corner of her mouth. Gu Qing Shan replied, "I can't leave her behind, so I won't be going to your Excellency's world." The Fairy of Time appeared contemplative, then replied after a while, "I went to the moment when you obtained the star chart and took a look at it. I now know where the next world you'll be heading to is. How about I directly send you to the next world?" "Very well. Then I'll have to trouble you," Gu Qing Shan replied. The Fairy of Time smiled and replied, "That is no trouble at all, but I will be dealing with a war that concerns the survival of the elven race, so I might not have the time to take care of you. So in the following days, you will have to rely on your own strength to survive and become stronger," Gu Qing Shan gratefully said. "You've already helped me a lot. I'm already very grateful." The Fairy of Time nodded. "Farewell. I hope you can quickly grow up. After all, The 4 Saint Pillars are missing the power of one of them, so we will have a hard time. Her voice gradually became weaker. The blinding nebula scattered, the Fairy of Time's appearance became dim, and all the starlight eventually disappeared into the boundless void. In the void of space, Gu Shan was still flying forward, as if nothing had happened at all. But after a few moments, the suction force on Gu Shan's body abruptly changed. He drew an arc in the void of space and flew in a different direction. Flying, continuously flying. After an unknown amount of time, a glowing hole suddenly appeared in the void of space and instantly enveloped Gu Shan. Under the dim, yellow sky, a meteor streaked across the sky, descending towards the boundless earth. After flying for a while, the meteor abruptly stopped in midair, then completely disappeared. Gu Shan landed on the ground. He released his inner sight to scan the surrounding several thousand miles. There was no one here. This place was a barren rocky mountain range. Gongzi, there's no one here. Shanu flew out and cautiously observed their surroundings. Yes, help me carry her. Gu Shan tapped his inventory bag and took out a formation plate. After leaving the Gemini star, as a cultivator at the peak of 3,000 worlds layers, he finally regained his power. Gu Shan arranged various large-scale defensive, concealment, and offensive formations in a single breath, then formed a hand seal to create a cave in the mountain. He walked in, first arranged a spirit-gathering formation, arranged a chair and bedding neatly, lit a calming incense, then had Shanu place the tall, slender woman on the soft bed. Gu Shan then took out a top-grade healing pill, crushed it, dissolved it in water, and poured it into the tall, slender woman's mouth. His expression became a bit heavy. On the Gemini star, Shanu couldn't possibly defeat the tall, slender woman at her full power. But as soon as Magic Dragon appeared, he was able to beat the tall, slender woman to a near-death state. He's already so strong, even when his power is sealed. If I run in a Magic Dragon at full power, would I even have a chance to escape? The difference is too great. He suddenly recalled something and asked Shanu. When they were fighting, you were observing them with your inner sight. What exactly was the situation at the time? Shanu then explained the situation of the battle between Magic Dragon and the tall, slender woman in detail, not leaving out a single word of their conversation. Hearing that, Gu Shan carefully checked the tall, slender woman's wounds. She said that I'm the old man's successor? Gu Shan asked. Yes, she said that the old man finally found a successor, so she didn't want you to die. She used all her power to stop Magic Dragon and didn't retreat at all, Shanu replied. Gu Shan fell silent. Cat Flutter, that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.